Hi, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Budget Committee. It is Tuesday, February 17th, 2026, and it is 6:01 p.m. We're at the Nashua High School North Boardroom, and I'm going to ask Ms. Raymond to do the roll call, and then we're going to go right into the presentation that Dr. Andre and his staff are giving us.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Giglio?
Here.
Ms. Prin?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
I'm here. Ms. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Salvi?
Here.
Ms. Lampier is here.
Here.
Ms. Lopez is not here tonight. Ms. Bishop?
Here.
We have Dr. Andrade, Mr. Posca, Dr. Scarpati, and Mr. Gray. And we have a bunch of guests in the audience who I'm hoping will introduce themselves so that the tape knows who they are when they start talking.
They'll come up during their presentation slides.
when they get there.
Yep. Perfect. All right, so Dr. Andrade and I are going to kick this off and kind of roll through the budget presentation. We'll have actually the department directors come up during their portion of the slides. I think, Dr. Andrade, unless you want to do something different, I would say let's go through the slides and then we'll take some questions at the end. Does that work?
Yeah, I think there's an aspect when, especially if a director is up here and they're going over their couple of slides, I would welcome questions at that time. It would be appropriate, but it's over. What's that? Yeah. So tonight, it's interesting the last couple of weeks where people are like, oh, it's budget season, like what's going on? So it's been a little busy around central office, but it's or a little busier. It's always busy. We're always talking about budgets. Mr. Chopra came into my office earlier, and he's like, you've been talking about the budget since September, and now we're just able to present it. Of 2019, but the next two nights, it's actually an opportunity for us to think about our budget, where the district is going. So as we go through our questions, next slide, I'm moving it on my side, is really to think about our strategic plan and our vision. So the Nashua School District is a community where curiosity drives education, and every learner is valued. And we've been going and really dissecting our vision statement on really some of the key words. And key words here being community, right? We need to move forward as we have a budget conversation. It's just not our one building or our district, or the Board of Aldermen, but it is a community. How are we moving our district forward where curiosity drives education? And I think over the next couple of nights, we're going to have to be curious, and we have to give ourselves permission to ask questions and have bold conversations on where is our district going next? How are we going to get there? And every learner is valued. And we were very specific in this word choice too, is who's the learner? And oftentimes when I read this vision statement to others, we immediately go to students. And I challenge that. Yes, our students are learners, but all of us are learners. Every community member is a learner. If we're going to reshape and be curious, then everybody needs to come to the table with an open mind. And so I'm hoping, as we go through this, we go back to our vision statement. All right, did it again. So in our strategic plan, I should get that thing. Right, in our strategic plan, here's our 4 focus areas: climate, culture, and community engagement. So we need to be very active in making sure that our community is engaged in our conversations. Teaching, learning, and leading. Our focus area number 3 is around operational efficiencies and future planning. And then focus area 4, innovate, research, and design. Again, that curiosity on how are we improving? What are we trying? And when we say innovate, it doesn't have to be always something new. It's reinforcing what's going well and how do we bring it to scale. So really, again, focus area 4, giving us permission to ask questions of what's going on and why and how do we get better. Next slide. Here's some some high-level academic highlights, and we can see the growth in our district over the last couple of years. And, you know, we were just at the public hearing, and a question came up of how are we measuring? We are measuring. We have a lot of data points, and we can see our beginning of the year and middle of the year growth. I also can note that to date, our building administrators have conducted over 900 learning walks, so they're in classrooms a lot. So we are evaluating to make sure that good teaching, great teaching is going on a daily basis. But we're starting to see those highlights coming through. Next slide. And some of these highlights are, we see growth in our ELL students in grades 3 through 8, demonstrating growth in ELA and math. Maine Dunstable and Charlotte Avenue exited ATSI, that's assisted targeted support intervention status, and they made growth and exited that label. Sunset Heights has been recognized as a nationally distinguished school for exceptional performance and growth. We had 2 North students who earned national merit semifinalists and 4 commended students. 72 high school DECA students qualified for the international competition. Actually, we just got an update over the weekend. I think we had 170 high school students qualified in New Hampshire for the national. I think Dr. Scarpatti's daughter was part of that group as well, so very good weekend for them. And then over 1,300 students enrolled in our career and technical education programs. Next slide. And so I wanted a high-level Nashua at a glance. So we currently have 9,500 students. Our budgets, including our benefits, $191 million. Our average class size is 19.4. We have roughly 2,000 staff members. Approximately 800 students graduated last year, and there's 50 languages spoken. And then you can see down in green, we had about 23.6 students went to a 2-year college, 43.7 went to a 4-year college, 27% went on to employment, 2.6 to military, and 3.2 to other opportunities. Next slide. And over time, I think this is where we've been having the conversations around what's happening to our population. As we go back to 2014, we can see that we had 11,500 students in the district. And as I just mentioned, we are down to 9,500 students. And then with the Harriman project and the enrollment study, we will see a continued decline over the next 5 years to closer to 9,000 students by 2032. Go back one second. And then in the green, you could see the number of FTEs, that's full-time equivalent teachers, is in green. So we roughly went from 991, and we're about 958 full-time equivalent teachers as of today. And as breaking it down a little further around our student enrollment, we could see the change in our demographics. The blue is general education students, green is ELL students, and orange is special education students. For those people in the audience who can't see the colors, the top line is special education, the middle is ELL, and the bottom is our general education students. And you can see there's shifts. In 2014 and 15, we had roughly 1,100 ELL students. As of 2025-26, we have just over 2,000 ELL students. And similarly in special education, we had about 1,800 special education students in 2014, and we're up to 2,200 students, special education students in 2025. And we have seen, next slide, we've invested in our ELL population. Again, you could see in 2014, we only had 27 ELL teachers. for over 1,000 students. And then in 2022 or 2021, that's when we entered the DOJ settlement agreement. And we started really investing in our ELL students, teachers over the last couple, since 2022 through 2025, we've added approximately 25 ELL teachers. Yep.
Thank you. Do these numbers count the teachers who are dual certified, as in they're a classroom teacher, but they also are certified in ELL? Or is it support staff who directly
This is
just support
strictly
and
our
have
ELL
caseloads of
teachers.
ELL?
Yep.
Okay.
So if they're providing ELL services.
Dr. Andrade, since we're looking at this now, I just wanted to comment that the number of ELL teachers we have didn't start to climb until you came to the district. So, thank you for that.
Yeah, it was a team approach. I think there was an aspect, it wasn't easy, like with the DOJ being here, but I think it's really, again, I go back to community. It was an investment on the Board of Education. I think there was some leadership from our ELL leadership team. So this wasn't solely one person. It was definitely a team effort. And as we go over, we're still looking for more ELL teachers. So we'll hear about that tomorrow. But you can see that we are starting to make significant progress, but we still have much more work to do. Next slide, please. And this just further looks at, this was the caseload, almost the point Ms. Lampier is, in 2008, it was one teacher for every 45 students, and we still think this caseload is a little high. It's one teacher for every 35 students. So we still have work to do there. That's still a high caseload. Over the last couple of years, we had a lot of conversations about elementary numbers, and we've eliminated a number of positions at the elementary level 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. 2 years ago, we had conversations about right-sizing our middle school, and over the next 2 nights, we'll have conversations about our high school. And you can see the change in our high school numbers here, where in 2020, we had roughly 3,400 high school students. This year, we're down to 3,100 students. And you can see that the high school teachers' numbers really haven't changed too much. That's a ratio, it's 13 students to every one teacher at the high school, which is a good number. But you can see it's been, our student enrollment at the high school has been steadily decreasing. Next slide. And so for tonight and tomorrow, we use a little Ted Lasso, Walt Whitman. Ask a lot of questions. Be curious, not judgmental. There's a lot of hard work going on with all of our directors, with our assistant superintendents, with the Board of Education. I think we get stronger by asking questions. And I think we, as we have the dialogue back and forth, need to give each other grace. Right, this is going to be a lot of hard work over the next 2 days, and then when we have our public hearing, we're going to have a lot of difficult conversations, and there should be a lot of questions that come up, the whys, where were we going with this? So I think we just need to be curious and be respectful that all the questions are coming with good intentions, and we'll lead it from there. Mr. Gray?
Thank you. Tom Beer, if you can come down, please.
Yeah. Can we, just 1 second, Ms. Lopez is on the phone and is going to be calling in.
Well, she'd like to call in. I don't know how to use these new phones. How do we get an outside line?
Is it a 7?
7?
I don't think it worked.
Did we get a dial tone?
The number you have dialed is not in service.
I need my
You
glasses.
get a dial tone when you just pick it up, but then
Yep.
What's her number? Sorry.
let's not announce it to the world.
I do what I want. It should be on the website. She should be easily accessible to everybody.
Not everyone does that.
What? That's part of the rules, I thought.
Wait, I hung up because
Oh.
it took too long.
Wow, I'm not the leader of this. I don't know you how to use a phone. She says she's watching it.
Hello?
Hi, Shawanda?
Yes.
Hey, it's Jen.
Hi.
Hi, you're on speaker now, so you're part of the meeting, okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so special education funding sources, I'll hand it over to Mr. Beer in just a second, but special education, at times, we get quite a few questions just on the different funding streams that we're able to dip into. So we thought we would give just a high-level overview so everybody is aware. So when we talk about special education cost, we have our operating budget, which is the budget primarily we're going to be talking about over the next couple nights, and the vote that we'll be doing later in March. All right. You guys good? Okay. So operating budget, as I mentioned, all right, I'll hold on a second. Okay. All right, so federal grants, every single year, we get money from the federal government related to IDEA, which is one of our federal grants. On average, we see about $3.6 million with IDEA. Our special revenue account, we have currently, God bless you, we currently have a fund balance of around $3 million. Again, friendly reminder for special revenue. Special revenue is to be used only for that specific account that is set up. So even though there's roughly $3 million in the special revenue, special education account, we can only use those costs for special education services. We have a trust fund. If folks are aware, a couple weeks back, we did work with the city to go ahead and ask for some additional funds be deposited in our special education trust fund. That's sitting roughly around $3.2 million. We also get some state revenue every year related to special education, as well as some competitive grants that we usually see.
Mr. Gray, before you go on, I was just wondering, do you have any idea how much money we are expecting to get from the state revenue for 2027?
Yep, so later in the presentation, I'll take us through a deep dive related to intergovernmental revenue that we are anticipating to receive from
thank you.
the state.
Thank you. Can you just speak to the trust fund that you set up? And I know we went over this in finance, but it is not meant to be part of our operating budget for next year, right? It's like something set aside different?
Yep. Yeah, so we'll talk about it a little bit more as we get through the budget presentation, but I think it's really important to understand when we talk special education cost and we talk about the funding sources that are available, we are pulling from multiple streams in order to fund special education. With that being said, the trust fund and special revenue, once that money is gone, it's gone. So as I mentioned during Finance and Ops a few months ago, we will start to pull at some of the funds that are sitting in special revenue and use the trust fund as needed for some unexpected cost that transpire throughout the year. And my suggestion to the board would be not to go ahead and exhaust those two accounts, almost think of them as savings accounts or emergency accounts, because again, once that money is gone, it's gone. So again, the trust fund account truly can only be utilized for special education cost. Something else to mention with the trust fund and special revenue, unlike our operating budget, if there's money left over at the end of the fiscal year, that money does go back to the city. If there is money left in special revenue or in our trust fund, that is money that we can roll over year. So it's important for the next like 3 to 5 years, or hopefully even longer, we'll have some type of, I don't want to say buffer, but some type of additional funds in case there's unexpected costs that come in related to special education. Did that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I was just curious. I had a bill to have more funding for special ed, but it burst into flames and died. So, sorry.
No worries. All right, Mr. Beer, you're up. Can you just do a quick introduction, please?
I would love to.
So everybody knows.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Tom Beer. I'm the interim director of special education for Nashua. I'm going to keep my part of the presentation pretty short and high level, and if I know if folks have questions, we'll go deeper tomorrow. I also want to just give a quick shout out to my team, because the work I'm here presenting today rests on the shoulders of a really talented team. So in my corner, I have our out-of-district coordinator and interim assistant director, Kerry Curtis. We have 3 fantastic special education coordinators at the middle school level, Andrea Fall, and at the elementary level, Deb McGinty and Lennox Banning. We have our chief school psychologist who works very closely with our department and really holds up a lot of our work. That's Ann Price. And then we have our team in the Franklin Street building, Principal Greg Warren, Brentwood coordinator Chris McCallum, and preschool coordinator Kate Burns. Their work is integral to this and shows up here today. I also want to acknowledge our office support staff. So our business manager, somewhat new to the role, is Megan Vieger. She's doing a great job. And we have Danielle Leonard and Emily Susi supporting the administrative side. Also, we say a fond farewell to Alessa Cunningham. Some of you may have known Alessa in her many years of service to our district and our department. She retired this past month, and we are grateful for all of her hard work. I say thank you for letting me be here. Welcome and hello to the members I haven't met yet. Happy Mardi Gras, everyone, and have a happy and prosperous year of the fire horse. Chukmung Numay. Let's get into it. So stepping, I think, to a high level here, the guiding principles distilled down for the work that our team does center around these 5 things here on the left: student access, student progress, student independence, student and parent rights, and maintaining fidelity to the special education laws and process. In this day and age, and where the district is right now, I just want to highlight some of our top priorities. You'll see there on the right. These are things that we are working every day to problem solve and find new ways to move our work forward to meet the needs of our students and meet the needs of our community. So big priorities right now for Nashua include behavioral supports for students. We are working forward towards providing more differentiated curriculum to meet the academic needs of all kinds of learners. The district has made significant investment and continues to care deeply about mental health and trauma-informed practices for our students. Those of you who noted the competitive grant from Crotchet Mountain Foundation, that's just under $250,000 over 3 years. I believe this is the 3rd year of it. And that has funded a large amount of professional development really around trauma-informed practices. Something we care also about and provide already here in Nashua is a robust continuum of services. Every year we take a step back, look at how we are serving kids, where we are serving kids, and how we can maintain the best access for them to their education. A big priority I also want to highlight, which will not surprise you, is staff recruitment and retention. This is the lifeblood of our district. We have a talented community of educators here in Nashua. And as in many industries, the talent pipeline is diminishing year to year. So we are just trying to tackle this problem head on and make this work attractive and interesting to people. I think people that are motivated by education and by kids are real. That's our asset. So I'm committed to that. Pairing with that, of course, is training, coaching, and development for our staff, something we care about every year. And I'm proud to have our special ed department be a part of the district's much larger plan to provide robust professional development for folks. So building off of some of those themes, just a quick overview of challenges and opportunities. These are not exactly aligned left to right, but they're somewhat aligned here. So some of the challenges we're experiencing, and I just want the board thinking about and aware of, workforce challenges persist. So we find that we don't have the talent pool and the applicant pool that 5 to 10 years ago was common. That's not a problem that's unique to Nashua. It's not even a problem that's unique to education. But if we are not focused on it, it will continue to be an issue that we'll have to face. Related to that, staff turnover in education, this is a significant issue because so much of the work we do is possessed inside of people's brains and muscle memory. And so when they leave a position, they retire or they move on to another position, unfortunately, we risk losing some of that momentum from year to year and the good practice that happens. So we're aware of that and thinking strategically about what that means in the long run for training and development. We are, of course, focused on rising costs of contracted services. This board has seen that through our contracts month to month. Not much more to say about that, except that this is a top priority. Paired with that, we've seen significantly rising costs in out-of-district placements. Again, that's not a Nashua issue. Out-of-district placements are costly to begin with. Starting during the period of the COVID epidemic, those costs started to skyrocket and have continued on an upward trajectory. So we are very conscientious that when students are placed in private schools by the district, that has a significant financial impact on the district. And the reverse point, which I know some board members, Ms. Lamphere in particular, you've echoed many times in the past, is that the stronger our supports and our programming here in the district, the less we have to rely on other private entities to provide an appropriate public education. And finally, I'm just going to point out there's still some misconceptions about least restrictive environment and what adult supports for students and student independence mean, right? And so just to name it, I think sometimes we're afraid to back off and let children take on more and more independence. That's a mindset thing, not just in staff, but in our community as a whole. So with your partnership in the years to come, I would like to continue to echo a message to the public about how important it is that special education is really about access to education. And as children grow and mature and gain skills, in most cases, they gain independence as well. And we need to honor that, and we need to help them to move in that direction and not be afraid of it. The opportunities presenting themselves in the face of these challenges, we are thinking and working with our partners and other departments on innovative recruitment strategies. We see that as a way to bring in more talent, more people who are really committed to children and committed to public education. Again, we are committed to providing rigorous, differentiated professional development. And likewise, throughout the course of this year and going forward, we're going to continue to maintain a strong focus on improving practices and procedures year to year and building up the resources at the hands of our special educators. I think also I can say on behalf of the leadership team regarding special education that I see a good direction here of this team thinking more long-term rather than simply year to year. All of the challenges I've highlighted are not just this year, obviously. And so thinking strategically over a longer period is going to be important. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be a part of Dr. Andrade's strategic plan and see that unfold and point in a direction for the district and for special education. We also know there's a greater role for stakeholder involvement in education. Again, this gets to educating and working with the public around having a strong conversation around special education. And so there will be more to come about that as we go on. That's the main part of my short presentation for you today. The following slide harkens back to a year ago. So rather than rewriting and recreating some resources, this department did a fantastic job in the spring of last year presenting in 2 back-to-back meetings an overview of special education, really the basics, and then also our team did a deep dive into intensive needs. I think we actually had some of our intensive needs teachers come and present at that time. So I just wanted to bring those resources back to the top for board members and for new board members who haven't had a chance to see those yet.
I think just to echo that, we also did a presentation at the Finance and Ops meeting, I believe it was September 9th, to just go over kind of the trend over the last 2 to 3 years, 2 to 5 years of where have we seen the special education cost related to our students and how that has drastically increased over the last several years, plus what some of the cost has been related to ESSER once we had, at the time that we had the ESSER grants. So if anybody needs access to that link or that presentation as well financially from September 9th, feel free to reach out. I'd be more than happy to pass it along.
I just have a quick question. I have seen the previous couple of slides. I couldn't see any kind of item which says that how we are evaluating the progress. I didn't see that because ultimately the evaluation and where we stand from the previous year to this year after spending X amount of dollars, that is what the milestone we should have. So I couldn't see that in any of the items, whether that is in the challenges or whether it's in the opportunity to improve. I couldn't see that.
Yes, sir, Mr. Salvi. I think that's a great point. So the point's well taken that year to year we do track. So I think you're maybe speaking on a couple different levels. One is student progress year to year, and certainly that gets tracked at the level of individual students necessarily through the special education process. That's the work of an IEP team, is to monitor that progress and direct it over the course of a student's education. But I think you're also touching on, if we've identified these areas of challenge, what is the evidence of progress from year to year for the district? Is that right? Okay, I think that's an excellent question. So I don't know that I can wrap that up into a slide, but I think that's a good challenge for our department to be able to speak to.
If I may, so we do track that data, especially on our SAS information. So earlier in the academic highlights, we highlighted Maine Dunstable and Charlotte Avenue for exit and ATSI. And they were specifically identified for low growth in special education. So we saw high growth in special education in those 2 schools that actually exited us. So we do look at our subgroups and our testing year over year. What I think is difficult in special education is what the student growth looks like, especially for our students with IEPs. And this sounds really basic, but we're hoping, and I think this goes into the misconceptions, is that what's the gradual release? How many students, I hate to say, graduating from their IEPs? Not enough. Be really blatant, and there's straightforward with it. So we are looking for how many students are exiting or moving to a lesser restrictive environment. And a lesser restrictive environment might be just less resources, right, or less service minutes. And so those are the aspects that we're tracking as well. We don't have a slide on it, but those are the indicators, and it goes to Mr. Beer's slide on what are the misconceptions And part of it is, what is the misconception on least restrictive environment? And part of that is we have data around how many paraeducators we have at the elementary level that are written into IEPs that may or may not be needed. And so I think that's the point of gradual independence that we're not seeing, because I think we're actually not giving students enough opportunities for independence.
Ask a follow-up question. My question is related to, when I asked that question, because I believe in basically, for every school, we have certain funding for the special education. We should have a milestone for that school, right? That is what my understanding is. So when we have a milestone, we have a periodic review every 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or 12 months. So are we maintaining that, or we are basically trying to, I know the misconceptions will be there, I know that there will be challenges, but if we have a certain clear vision, at least an objective which may not be too aggressive or maybe to the next step, so at least we have a way to evaluate it that we achieve that objective.
So yes, for grades 3 through 8, there's state benchmarks that we need to meet for our special education students. And that's if we don't meet those benchmarks, they might be identified as an area that we missed, and then we need a corrective action plan. So that's from the state accountability. But individually, every year, every IEP meeting, we should be looking at those goals to see if those students are making progress, and then do a little trend data. We are working this year, especially with our consultants coming in, looking at, are we collecting the right data? But we do have benchmarks that we need to meet at the state level, and we evaluate that by school and grade level.
I'd like to ask a question. For our special education teachers and our paraeducators, are they tracking the time that is spent with each child?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. If there's no additional questions for special education, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So I have,
Just remind Ms. Lampier to call.
Lampier, you're supposed to call on me.
I'm sorry, I did not see your hand.
You're in charge of the whole horseshoe, so you tell people when they can speak and when they can't. It's a lot of fun.
Go ahead, Ms. Raymond.
Thank you, Ms. Lampier. So this slide was emailed to us this afternoon at 4 or 4:30, and there is a hyperlink. Will this be posted to the website so that people out in the public can also access these hyperlinks? I know how to navigate to them from last year, but it's not super easy, so it's easier to click from here.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, all the presentations from tonight and tomorrow night after the meeting is complete, we'll go ahead and post them on our website under the budget section.
Fantastic, thank you.
Ms. Bishop?
I would just highly recommend to the new members to review those presentations. They were amazing and in-depth, and we asked a lot of questions that were both nuanced and not needed. And they did a great job answering all of them. So I would highly recommend reviewing those presentations to better understand not only what our special education does and how it meets the individual needs of the students, but also honestly, the board's understanding of how we access special education and how each student is entitled to its services. So I thought what was most important was just the conversation, and they're so specific in what they know, and we don't. And the questions that we asked, I think, were mirroring a lot of what the public would have. So it probably was a great organic conversation that would happen out in the community. So I would highly recommend reviewing that board presentation, but then also watching the actual video.
Thank you. I did actually watch it, and it was a great presentation, so thank you.
Before I take your question, I was wondering if there's any way for Ms. Kinsella to add the September 9th hyperlink to this?
Yeah, I just said to Mr. Beer, we'll get it added, and then we'll go ahead and post this presentation. So I'll add it to the links here, and then we'll post the presentation tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you.
Just for clarity too, each of the departments was asked to go ahead and do 2 slides max for the high-level executive presentations tonight. And then they also have some supplemental slides that we will post on the website and share out to the Board of Education for just some additional information. Because if we included all of the slides that the teams have put together, we probably would be here until 1 o'clock. And I'm sure folks don't want that.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Raymond.
Well, I don't need it anymore. It was about the hyperlinks, which Mr. Gray just addressed.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to steal your question.
No, that's all right. Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, yes, Mr. Johnson.
Just a quick note, building off of what Dr. Andre was saying, is I was a parent of a special needs student who did come off of his IEP in high school. And I'd say it's as a parent, it's very difficult. You know, you hit that point where you're like, well, you know, you feel like, are they just adrift now? And so I think there's a lot of anxiety with parents of students who are on IEPs, and just that support they need to be able to make that step to have their child come off of that and come on a less restrictive program.
I would just say very true, and thank you for sharing that.
Okay, does anybody else have questions? I guess not. All right, thank you, Mr. Spears.
All right, we're going to go ahead and transition next to ELL, a couple slides for ELL partners. We'll have Mr. Chopa come down. Ms. Booten, are you going to come down too? Are you sure? Okay. All right.
Good evening. My name is Bob Chopa. I'm director of the English Language Learner Program. And welcome to the newer members that I haven't met yet. I look forward to meeting you down the road. For the English Language Learner Program, there were a couple slides that I'll be addressing that kind of help. The ones that were earlier will help kind of, this slide will give context to. So just in big picture, we have 1,600 active students. That means that those students are have not yet tested as proficient on the yearly language assessment, which is called the access test, which actually we're giving right now. The 392 monitored students, those are students who did test as proficient on that language assessment, and they stay in monitored status for a period of 4 years, in which we track them to make sure that the language is not interfering with their academic success. So Dr. Andrade had shown earlier the slide that showed the increase in the teaching staff, which the ELL department is very thankful to the Board of Education for bolstering up and meeting the needs of our students. But that slide doesn't quite paint the whole picture of what our responsibilities are to our English language learners, because we call it English language learners, but it's really a very diverse group of students within our program. So just to kind of give examples of different types of learners that we have, are typically progressing on track English language learners, which would be a student who may come from wherever, another country, fully literate in their first language. And when they come to us and are taking classes in English and their English ELL classes, they have literacy skills that they can transfer over. Of course, it's not a snap of the fingers. It takes them normally somewhere between 4 to 6 years to reach total proficiency. But that would be what we would kind of typically, we can kind of watch their progress. We go, yep, this is on track. When those folks arrive, they're newcomers. And newcomers require intensive language support. And So as I mentioned earlier, the language assessment that we give every year, the students receive a score from 1 to 6, and they test out as proficient as a 4.5. As Dr. Andrade mentioned earlier, we had a visit from the DOJ, and they stayed for a number of years, which was kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time. But the requirements that we weren't meeting that kind of invited the DOJ into our district was we weren't providing enough service minutes for all of the different students. So students at a level between a 1 to 2 require 2 either periods or sessions of ELO classes a day. So even though like the caseloads were dropping, if we have a significant amount of newcomers, we still have quite a lot of requirements to fulfill for service minutes for those students. So it's not like just a 1-to-1. Another group of students we have, they're called SLIFE students, which are students with limited or interrupted formal education, which would be the third bullet. These are students who might be coming from refugee camps or just coming from places where schooling wasn't always available. Now, of course, as I mentioned to the students who were typically progressing, they had literacy skills they could transfer over. For our students that come with limited formal education, they're learning the basics of school life, routines, in a completely foreign language without having the literacy skills to transfer over. So it's very, very challenging for that group. And for them to make progress to get out of that level 1 and 2 does take some time. And the fourth group that I want to mention is a long-term English language learners, which is any student who's been in the program for over 6 years. And what we see with these students, many times they're born in the United States in a household where English is not the language of the home, but at the same time, these students they're born in the United States, so all of their formal education has been in English without they can't transfer literacy skills in their first language over to English. And these are students who, if you were to talk to them just in the hallway, you would think, oh, completely proficient. And the challenge that this group of learners has is the academic skills, the reading and the writing. It really, for some of them, it really trips them up and extends the amount of time that they're in the ELO program. And as I mentioned, we're doing the access testing, which is the language proficiency assessment right now. And I've been in the high school for this week and last week. And you see these students who've been in the program since elementary school have really lost a lot of the frustration level is so high. This is a test they've been taking forever, and sometimes the effort that they put forth is not what we would like to see, just because it's like, I've been doing this since kindergarten. It's not working. So a lot of times with that group, especially with at least our language assessment, they kind of check out, and which lowers their scores, which is it's understandable. I mean, there's got to be a lot of frustration. And we also have duly identified students who have special needs with learning disabilities that also inhibit their acquisition of the language. And sometimes those students remain in those level 1 and 2 and requiring 2 sessions or 2 periods a day. So that kind of gives a little bit more context to just those earlier slides that showed you like the case management numbers and we can go to the next one. So how are we going to continue to meet the needs of all these learners? We'll continue with our ELL classes, which, they suit our typically progressing students just great. But what we have not done as a program is really kind of address the different learning needs for each one of these groups, and that's something that we're working on just this year. This is the first year that we're out of the DOJ agreement, which gives us a lot more ability to make local decisions where we really couldn't before. So what we're really focusing on is improving the literacy skills. We're doing it at every level because we know it's a need. But the goal is to provide literacy instruction the elementary and middle school, so we can kind of, number one, reduce the amount of students that might be identified for special education services, and two, shorten their time in the district by providing them with the literacy skills they need to be successful academically. So Ms. Booten has done a fantastic job with the program setting that we've been setting up in the elementary and middle. High school, we have a program. I don't know if it's quite the right one, but it's something we're stop because there's needs that we have to meet for these students. Like I said, this kind of programming we've never had done before because quite literally we didn't have the staff to do it, and we also were under the DOJ agreement, which we had to just do what they said. We had no ability to make decisions. So, yep, targeting the needs of the different types of learners that we have in our program is where the ELL program is going, and we would have to expand some services to meet the differing needs of our students. But that's kind of the general overview of how the ELL will be approaching this budget season.
Mr. Chopra, as you're focusing on literacy at all the different levels, are you finding more kids that actually you can tell have learning disabilities or need IEPs?
I don't, would you say that, Daniel? Do you say that I'm pointing to it? I wouldn't. Yeah, so no, that's not, we're not getting to that diagnostic level.
Well, that's good, I guess, that there are kids that don't have, there are not more kids that don't have learning disabilities and aren't getting the services.
Right, and the thought also is just if we can identify that, give them the instruction that they need at their level, we can see that progress, which means they're not going to get referred for special education if it takes a longer amount of time for them to acquire the language.
Can you tell me how many dually identified students you have?
I think it was somewhere in 400. I have the number. I just don't have it on top of my head. I know it's in the 400s.
Okay, that's close enough. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I saw Ms. Raymond's hand first, just because I was looking that way.
Thank you. So when you're talking about a multilingual lens, are we still doing all of our ELL instruction in English, or are we now kind of looking at some bilingual instruction and some bilingual resources?
English only.
Okay.
Yep.
Ms. Lewis.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, do we track whether or not any of these students are involved in extracurriculars, sports, if they have any mentors outside of school? For instance, if they're going to like the Boys and Girls Club or any of those after-school activities. I know, so for instance, my daughter, she does have an IEP. I know we're talking about ELL right now, but I found that getting her involved in other things outside of just, the everyday, oh, I can't read, I can't do this,
Right.
Giving them some support, giving them that power back. So I was just curious if, with the students that we're working with, if we could know maybe what they're involved in, or maybe
Right.
help get them involved more in other things.
Right. So we don't have data specifically on the activities, but another investment that the district has made in the English language learner program is our family engagement coordinators, which are bilingual kind of liaisons between the families and the schools. And they are just unbelievably integral because a lot of the parents have no idea of the different, like the CTE programs that we have here at the high schools, different opportunities just around town, like the Boys and Girls Club. So they are really tied into the different community resources and really support the parents in making those connections that they need, especially when they're new to the community.
Thank you. So I guess right now we could say we don't know for sure whether or not all of these students or if any of them are involved in extracurriculars. So I guess maybe that's just something that I would advocate for more.
Absolutely. We encourage
being
sports.
a parent and also sitting here on the board.
Absolutely. I mean, as students are more engaged into the school culture, the more buy-in, and absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I may, Ms. Lamphere, and I think it might come up in a couple slides, where I'm sure Director Gingras will talk about, she knows all of her students, and we actually have the highest participation rate since pre-COVID right now, so I'm sure she will be able to highlight on just the number of students and how many possibly ELL students. So she might not have the exact number, but I'm sure she's pretty much has it, so.
All right. Mr. Salvi?
Thank you. What is the process to identify the ELL students?
So anytime a family registers a student, as part of the registration packet, there's a form called a home language survey. And when a family indicates a language other than English on that form, an ELL teacher will check it out, verify that doing a screening, an assessment for eligibility for the ELL program is appropriate. We do the screening. If the student qualifies for services within the ELL program, the parent has the right to accept those services or decline them. If they decline the services, the student will be coded as an active ELL, and will just need to take that language proficiency test once a year until they test as proficient. If they accept services, then they come into the ELL program and receive the appropriate amount of service minutes based on their proficiency level.
Thank you.
Mr. Chopra, can you just, again, when a family comes in, how do they signify that English is not their primary language at home?
It's in the home language survey.
So can you just say a little more about that? We can give the example.
Okay, so the home language survey is a form that asks, like, what was the first language your child spoke or learned? What languages does your child understand? What languages does your child speak? What languages can your child write? So any of those, if there's a language other than English listed, we go ahead and do the assessment. The one thing that we have made an adjustment on since with the Department of Justice is they wanted us to, went through every cumulative folder in the entire school district and had screened every kid that had a language other than English. But we've made the local decision that if everything listed about the child is English and it's the parent who speaks a second language, we don't do an assessment because that's not always appropriate. But that's kind of what sets off the screening for services for the English Language Learner Program.
Oh, Ms. Raymond?
Can parents decline the initial assessment? Or is it only they can decline after the assessment?
They can decline services. And it's also it's odd. They cannot decline, and some of them do, and we honor it, but they're not supposed to decline actually taking the access test, which parents have the right to opt out of every other test except this one, which I don't like, but those are the rules.
Ms. Bishop?
Follow-up question. If the parent's primary language is not English, we offer services with the family engagement counselors so that they have translation services available?
So also part of the registration packet is parents can indicate if they want to receive information in their home language, in which case we mark that data, and we'll know that if we want to make contact with that parent, we need to communicate with them either through either translations or using interpreter services based on their languages. And we have contracts we have some in-house interpreters and translators, and then we also contract with some outside agencies to provide us with support for the languages that are less spoken by our own interpreters.
Are we still sending home translations of all the forms and everything that the kids bring home?
We certainly try, yeah. That's that data point when it's indicated that the parents prefer to receive the language in the home, in their home language. That's where we know that we need to supply them with the translation.
Okay. Ms. Lewis?
Thank you. That's really nice to know that that they can opt in for that. I just wanted to share that there could be barriers. For instance, if someone, and this is again from individuals from their own cultural backgrounds, that maybe they would opt out, right, to receive translation in their preferred language. Is this something that we could, change or update and still provide that, but also provide it in English as well?
If a parent declines, either interpretive services. We really won't provide them because they've indicated that's not something they want. But I think like if a situation arose in like an IEP meeting with very important information being relayed to the parent, and the parent's demonstrating that they really don't understand, I'm 100% sure the school would offer, like, we have support for you to really help you through this process, because the special education process can be daunting for a native English speaker and for somebody who doesn't understand our school system and then might not be strong in the language. It's, we're pretty careful with that one.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. I just wanted just to point that out, that sometimes there are barriers for individuals, and that might be a case as to why they would not opt in for that.
I think if any parent was demonstrating, like, struggling with the language, we'd certainly offer it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other questions.
All right, we're going to transition over to plant operations. If Mr. Smith can come down. Thank you, Mr. Chopra.
Thanks, Mr. Chopra.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Sean Smith. I'm the Plant Operations Director. New members, welcome. For all the old members, I look different because I shaved my beard. Nobody in front office has seen my chin before. So.
I knew there was something different about you.
In fact, I came out of the bathroom the other night. I shaved my beard, just decided to do it. My wife just laughed at me. But, so here we are. So plant operations. First, before I start with this part, we maintain and repair all the buildings and grounds across the city. We have 18 schools, totaling a little over 2 million square feet and almost 400 acres of land. We clean all the buildings. We maintain the school grounds, including the playgrounds and the sports fields and the playing courts. Provide safety and security. It's become more and more of an issue for us, and that includes oversight of the crossing guards. And finally, last but not least, we oversee the construction and renovation process for the school district. That's been very busy for the last 7 years. We've kind of hit a point where the city has decided to spend money elsewhere, which is fine. We have other needs in the city. But I'm hoping we can restart that pretty soon. We have some schools that are really in need of a renovation. Back to the budget, though. So I have a lot of supply lines for each of the trades areas you can think of, and those all increased 3%, proposed to go at 3%. My repair lines are also at 3%. HVAC, that's heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, increased 4.4%. We, as you probably know, completed McCarthy Middle School about a little over a year ago. Warranties have now expired, so we have to have controls contracts and also take care of the chillers that the chiller provides for air conditioning in the school. Contract services went up almost 5%. A large part of that was due to the shooter detection system licensing. So again, that was instituted about the same time as McCarthy did, except it was a district-wide program. The first year was they covered by warranty, but now we have to pay for the licensing and the maintenance. Elevator maintenance costs have gone up, so I inserted a line for that. General buildings and grounds maintenance covers various things. It includes roof repair, window repair, that sort of thing, but also major repair items. So I increased that by 10%. Window shades and curtains, you would think that that's something pretty standard that we would replace, but unfortunately, it's typically only during a renovation that we actually replace them. And so the older schools that you go into, you're going to see less and less good window coverings. So we inserted that this year. The maintenance software that I use in my department is about 20 years old. At the time we got it, it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, but it's gotten clunky and it's 20 years old and there's much better programs out there. So I'd like to replace that. It's not only the work order system, but it's also the material ordering system that our custodians use to order toilet paper, paper towels, floor wax, that sort of thing. So special ed, we actually have this, every year we have that in the budget for any physical accommodations we have to make. And our security system, we installed it around 2012, 2013, and it's getting old. And one of the things that we've done over time is added more and more cameras. It all is stored in what's called a network video recorder in each school. And as we get more cameras, and as the cameras get more and more technologically advanced, again, it's been over 10 years, the cameras today are head and shoulders what they used to. Unfortunately, it takes up more storage capability, so we'd like to increase that. We've had a small increase in our equipment replacements, but not a huge amount. Our last negotiating session with the custodial union, we agreed to cover their licensing requirements and their training. So that line went up 62%. And I know times are tight, but I ask for this every year, is add another float custodian and a McCarthy. I think we're short one custodian, but certainly understand if we can't swing that. So that's kind of the operating side. I mentioned the capital, the construction renovation. This past year for deferred maintenance, they're partial repaving of North High School. So as you come into the site from Broad Street, hopefully it's nice and smooth. We did resurface the tennis courts at both high schools. Unfortunately, right after we finished them, it started to snow. I haven't seen them since. We did some roof repairs at a number of schools, including the 2 high schools, and working with the IT department, we replaced the intercom and public address systems in the high schools. That's deferred maintenance. So deferred maintenance typically goes anywhere from $100,000 up to $1 million. And it's something we ask for separately every year as we go through the capital process. I mentioned the capital process, so above $1 million, and typically when you're going to renovate a school, it goes to something called the Joint Special School Building Committee. That's a committee of 5 Board of Ed members and 5 aldermen, and we've been working very actively with them, as I said, for the past 7 years. We just completed Birch Hill and Maine Dunstable this past summer. Those were our 2 schools that were completely open concept. So they all have walls, they have their own ventilation, they have their own, everything. It's great, I think. So it was a welcome change. We are still working on McCarthy, even though it opened a year and a half ago, just some minor mechanical tweaks that we felt we needed to do. And Stello Stadium, we finished that this past, early in the fall. Did the turf and put up new fencing, that sort of thing. So that work is nearly done as well. So coming up for this summer, our big thing we have to do, we have the money in hand in deferred maintenance, is to replace the fire alarm system at Bicentennial. It has had some hiccups in the past 6 months, and we've managed to repair it, but it's really running on chewing gum and baling wire right now. So it definitely has to be replaced. And I'm looking to replace a couple of shingled roofs at Amherst Street and the district office.
Mr. Smith, did we give you the money for the shingled roofs at Amherst Street and district office yet?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure.
So that's in the deferred maintenance budget. I'm also hoping, well, I'll get into that in a second here. So this past December, we met with the Capital Improvement Committee and we requested to replace the roof at Bicentennial. It is actively leaking. Every other day, we seem to get a call to repair a roof leak. I expect when the snow really starts to melt, we'll have more of those. We literally have buckets and trash cans around the school from time to time, collecting the water. It's at the end of its life. It's a rubber roof, rubber membrane. It was replaced around 1996, so it's lasted almost 30 years, which is pretty much as far as a rubber roof will go. Whenever we put out new rubber roofs on, we get a 20-year warranty, but then next 10 years are spent with repairs. I mentioned deferred maintenance, so we've asked for money to do more pavement work at the North High School here for partial roof replacements in Bicentennial and Fairgrounds Elementary. You'll note that I have money in requesting 2 pots, one on the capital side, one on the deferred maintenance side. I'm hoping I'll get one of them, but we'll see. Cellular repeaters, that's kind of new to our list, but it's we discovered during the Maine Dunstable Bird Show project that the staff in the schools, we've become so reliant on cell phones. And emergency contacts and information goes out via cell phone much more than regular landlines. And in some schools, we have very poor reception. So as part of the Maine Dunstable project, we actually put in cell repeaters, and so they can use their cell phones quite readily there. We have a number of schools a little bit off the grid, away from the highway, that have poor service. So that's something I want to attack. So back on the capital side, security system replacements, again, it's been 13, 14 years since we installed it, and we have to replace cameras and that sort of thing. We've installed Senalife. That's a air cleaning system that we installed in all of the elementary schools that have HVAC systems that have ductwork. So this is it's a device that goes in a duct and the airstream, and it cleanses the air and takes out an awful lot of the germs that might be up there. We did some testing. It's like 80%, give or take. But we did not have enough money to do that at the high schools. So I'd like to sneak that in at some point. North High School, complete repaving. Again, this is something I put my hand out in 2 pots of money, hoping to get one of them. But I think 1.4 million will complete the job. And where we're kind of getting towards the tail end of the facility master plan process, and they gave us basically a 12-year plan, and just to do the projects that they've identified. This is repair and maintenance and replacement of systems reaching the end of their service life. It's almost $2 million a year for 12 years. So keep in mind, especially for the new members, when we ask for deferred maintenance, typically we've asked for anywhere from $600,000 to $1 million every year, and we get $100,000. And the last couple of years, we've been lucky. We've had some aldermen that have made some motions. We've had $300,000 instead. So I add more than $100,000 every year to the list. So we're going backwards. Talking to the budget chairman for the city, he indicated that start to receive $2 million in deferred maintenance every year, but he wasn't sure if it was next year or the year after. So that'll be a welcome change. So I think that's it. If there's any questions.
I think just a couple additional pieces as Mr. Smith talked through the budget. So again, similar to special education for plant operations, we kind of have separate funding sources that really supports the budget. So we have the operating budget, which was the first slide that Mr. Smith went over. And then on the city side, we partner with the city every single year to get some of our capital requests or from the capital reserve account. Those are more of like your big projects. They also give us some money every year, but as we've heard, it's not really that much to go ahead and support deferred maintenance. We do have a small trust fund related to plant operations. And then we also have a SURF account, which is on the city side. Now, if Mr. Smith and his team needs to buy some type of like pickup truck or snow blower or kind of big ticketed items, SURF actually goes ahead and helps support that. So lots of numbers kind of tossed around here. I just want to be clear that, this slide in particular really goes over like capital projects, deferred maintenance. So some of these bigger ticketed items you're not going to necessarily see on our operating budget, but these are requests that Mr. Smith and the team have put forward to the city to support in other funding ways. Thank you.
Dr. Andrade. Oh,
If Ms. Raymond wants to go on.
okay, yeah, Ms. Raymond then. Sure.
I can wait, maybe you'll answer it.
Yeah, I think this, as Mr. Smith was talking about the facilities master plan, I think it just behooves this Board of Education to advocate with the city on a partnership of, especially when the facility master plan is completed, it'll be very detailed on what what are the conditions of our school? But this is a perfect opportunity for the community to come together of what do our schools look like in 2040, 2050 and beyond, and what's a strategic plan in order to invest in it. I think sometimes, where we just heard is we hope to get something. Hope is not a strategy, right? And so I think it is really the advocacy of working as one Nashua on what is this vision, and then again, involving the community. As we heard earlier in the hearing, it's going to cost money.
Yeah.
And what's the right investment? And so the more that we can get our community voices to be one and they're heard and listened to, again, on how do we envision the configuration of our schools, the investments in our schools, but I think that is really where the Board of Education needs to advocate and work in conjunction with the Board of Aldermen and to come up with a long-term strategic plan on how do we invest in over $1 billion worth of assets.
Okay. Ms. Raymond?
Thank you. So I watched last week the Harriman presentation as well. And something that didn't come up here and didn't come up there is playgrounds. I know historically it's been Nashua's, our practice to have our PTOs be in charge of that. But I have significant concerns about Fairgrounds and Lead Street's current playground situation. And I know there was some discussion about maybe bringing that into the operating budget or having some other way of more equitably addressing playground conditions.
So we'll be floating out a number tonight of what our, what the overall roll-up is, but really we'll get into it a little bit more tomorrow. And you'll see some significant numbers, but I think we need to have the conversation on what are we investing in. And so you've heard me in the past, bucket 1, 2, and 3. Currently playgrounds is probably a bucket 3, right? And so it's a safety concern, right?
Right, it's a safety
However,
issue.
right, so we have to look at priorities, right, of how much are we asking for? Because I think it's an outdoor classroom. I think we should be investing in it.
Yes.
At what cost, right? So what's the trade-off is going to be? So if we're going to put $200,000 a year in playgrounds forever, because that'll just be the cycle, that's a minimum.
Right, there's 19 buildings, so
Right, and so by the time you're done, right, every 20 years, you're going back and getting another playground, if not sooner. So I think that's what the conversation that we're going to have is what bucket does that fall in, and how much are we going to, where's the offset going to be? And I think that's a healthy Board of Education conversation.
I just see you know what I mean? We invest in our athletic fields at the middle and high schools, and I guess I don't see why playgrounds would be different than that.
And I think it's just always it wasn't there. And so if you put it in there, right, it's going to be, and I would recommend investing in playgrounds, classroom furniture over, in possibly individual positions. And I think that's going to be, again, how do we be curious and what's our long-term investment?
I think if I can just hop in for some clarity, when I hear safety concern, we as a school district, if there's any safety issues and pieces that are broken, the trust fund for deferred maintenance, we are able to dip into that account. We're working with the city right now to see the trust fund that's under capital reserve. Are we able, based off of regulation, able to utilize some of those funds to enhance and or fix some of the playgrounds? So if there's truly a safety concern related to the playgrounds, we should be working with the schools and plant operations to fix that equipment. Where it gets pretty costly, and to Dr. Andre's point, where does this fit in the budget? I 100% would agree that it's not really should be the PTO's responsibility. It should be us as a school district, our responsibility, but at some point, there's only limited funds, right? So as we're going to talk later tonight and tomorrow, if we are adding in enhancement of playgrounds, then what are we truly cutting? Because there is no money tree out back, right? So I think those are some things we need to kind of think through and talk about. I heard you mention Lead Street. There is an issue right now with the draining, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Smith, but there is an issue right now with draining related to the playground at Lead Street.
Right.
We are working in tandem with the city. It sounds like there's something set aside from city that they have given Lead Street to be able to fix that. I think there is some unclear messages out there of, is it to enhance Lead Street or is it to fix the draining issue? And I think, again, as we learn more about the playgrounds, especially through the Harriman study and what we're hearing from the community, are we going to invest in that? And if that answer is yes, then where is the money potentially coming from?
And that's really what I was looking for in the Harriman presentation and also as part of the budget is what is, as we're talking about critical needs, to me, I don't know that this budget year is the year for enhancements and like, you know, creating new systems, but I do think that every elementary school kid needs a place to play outside that's
Ms. Bishop,
safe
did
and
you wanna-
enriching.
You want to go ahead and ask your question now?
I was just going to point out, speaking to the constituent that came earlier and was talking about what are our proactive plans in regards to the enrollment. This is our proactive plans, making our schools someplace that, you know, are growing with the needs. And when we're looking at playgrounds and deferred maintenance and capital projects that aren't just maintenance, I mean, that's part of the investment that we have to make to our students, is keeping them current and relevant. And it's an investment, and it's not always in our hands what actually gets to get done in regards to capital improvements. And I think that's something, that's a practice that we need to shift. So that was all I was going to say.
Ms. Prin?
I have two things. First, about the playgrounds, I think, I could be wrong, but wasn't it the city that invested a lot of money into Roby Park? But that, well, my point is, that's a park where lots of kids go to. I constantly, and even as a parent, I'm seeing parents online ask where are the best playgrounds to take my kids, and people want to take their kids to the schools even on the weekends to use them, their public spaces. So it's an appeal to the city, I guess, that, you know, you can invest this money into Roby Park, make it a great playground for the city, while the schools are also part of the city. And then I had another question back about the cell repeaters. Are there telephones, like landlines, in the classrooms for teachers to call out in case of an emergency, or are we just relying on teachers using their cell phones?
So
That's a safety issue.
there are some, but not in every single classroom. They all have intercom. There are?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, because that's, I mean, we shouldn't, it's not fair to teachers to rely on them to use their cell phones in case of an emergency. Okay. I just
Yeah,
wanted to-
my understanding, and I'm looking at Mr. Rodriguez for reassurance, but I believe every classroom and/or every office does have a working telephone
Okay,
that you can dial out.
Per Terry's law and Raybon said, yes.
okay. All right, thank you.
If I could, I think part of their concern was if they're out on the playground or on a field, they're far away from any landline, so the cell phone becomes the main way of communicating.
I had a question about the roof on Bicentennial. If you cannot get the capital request money for it, and you end up getting the money for deferred maintenance, is that going to be enough money to make sure it doesn't leak? And what will that money do? Is it going to be just a patch, and next year it's going to start leaking again?
No, we would, if we get some money, then we would attack the worst parts of the roof. It can be a complete replacement of the rubber on those sections of the roof, and we pretty much know what sections they are.
Okay. Are there any other schools that you need to replace this year? I know last year we did some roof maintenance and we just to get by. And I didn't know if there was anything else that's a huge red flag that's coming up.
Yes.
Yes.
So that was to, as you said, get by, kick the can down the road for a while. But pretty much all the schools that we did the roof work at are probably need to be replaced in the next 5 years. So Bicentennial is like the worst. Fairgrounds is right behind it, maybe even creeping ahead of it. Fairgrounds, Ledge, and Charlotte, all sister schools, are all same architect, same year construction. So those other two schools are next in line. There are parts of New Searles that need to be replaced.
Yeah. Ms. Bishop, you can go ahead.
Just because I was there when we realized that there were too many rubber roofs on Birch Hill, do we have too many rubber roofs on Bicentennial to keep patching it the way that we've been?
That's a good question.
I mean, are there layers of roof? I'm not certain.
Should we do
We
a core
replaced-
evaluation before
do-
we can, like,
Yes, before we hire that out, we will do some cores and get the full
just because I
data.
was there for that, I thought I'd use my historical knowledge.
But whenever we patch it, the patch will last for a good long time, but it's the seams that tend to fail.
Right.
The rubber, after it's been under the sun for 30 years, that starts to crack. Some of the flashing, that sort of thing that holds everything in place starts to fail. So it's Bicentennial, again, it's been 30 years from Bicentennial. Ledge, Fairgrounds, Charlotte did some roof repair or replacements in the mid-teens, but most of those roofs probably go back to 1990. So we've gotten our money's worth out of the roofs, but we have to replace them.
Okay. All right, any other questions, anybody? Oh, okay, Mr. Johnson.
Just real quick on the playgrounds and stuff. There's a lot of areas where the parks and playgrounds sort of blend. I always think of New Searles, where the whole, the playground itself is small, but where the kids play is out on the soccer fields and baseball field that run adjacent to it. So there is a lot of area where it sort of, combines together with the parks.
Yeah, the curious thing about Ledge Street in particular is the playground is actually on park land.
Okay.
So that the boundary is on the other side, on our side of the playground, partially into the road that goes around the school. So it's so all the flooding that takes place when we have a gully washer of a rainfall, that's on parkland, but it's flooding our playground.
Right.
So we're working with the engineering department, Public Works, to try to address that issue, in addition to getting some money to replace the playground parts.
Thank you.
I really like Ms. Prince's idea about the playgrounds in the city. I think we should all go to the Board of Aldermen meeting at some point and advocate for that.
When my son was young, that's what we did. We would go to Bicentennial, and I wasn't, I was way on the other side of the city before we discovered Roby Park. People do all the time use those playgrounds on the weekends.
We were down in New Searles playground before my kids went to New Searles.
Yep.
And Bicentennial had that smaller caged-in play, not caged in, we don't
Like
cage
the
children.
toddler, the
It
preschool
was a
playground.
preschool playground.
Fenced in,
That's
so
where
I
took-
could
yeah.
sit and like, oh my God, these kids are exhausting and they couldn't go too far.
I mean, I live down the street from Birch Hill, and there's always families there on the weekends.
Yeah, it's really kind of, it goes to your point, Ms. Raymond, about, the equity that everybody's sitting around here and saying, oh, I took my kids to this playground, I took my kids to this playground. And there's not anyone going to say, oh, I went to Ledge Street. That was where I wanted to take my kids. And that's not right. That's not how we want our schools to be. So.
But I think the important message here, right, as we've heard from Mr. Smith, is we've been funded for capital projects and some deferred maintenance over the years, but unfortunately, we have not been funded where we need to be running 18, 19 buildings, right? And that includes the playgrounds that we're all talking about. So at some point, right, there's no money tree. If we're truly going to start to add in playgrounds, the tough conversations need to be had to what are we potentially going to cut in lieu of playgrounds? Or is the city allowing us to ask for heavier increases and more money in other spots?
Okay. All right.
All right. I think if we're good with plant operations, I'll ask, thank you, Mr. Smith. I'll ask Ms. Gingras to come over, which she is already.
Hi, Ms. Gingras.
Yeah.
I can't put it down. Sorry about that. I feel very, very tall. Sorry. Hi, everybody. Hi to the new members. It's nice to see everybody again. So thank you for allowing all of us from our departments to come in and speak to you about our slivers of the pie, if you will. The school district budget is so large, and this year Dr. Andre asked us to come in and tell our stories. What is the value of the Nashua School District's investment in our athletic programs? So as I talk with my coaches and students all the time, I could talk about education-based athletics for hours and hours and hours. It's just really so passionate for myself, for my staff, for our coaches, and most importantly for our kids that are involved in the programs. So just a few things, and I wrote some notes, so pardon me with the glasses. When in the public hearing earlier, and it's come up a couple of times about what are we doing as a district to be an attractive district for families and students, our athletic programs and our co-curriculars. I'm talking specifically about athletics, but also in the back of your mind, you could be thinking about our drama programs. You could be thinking about our musical programs, our performing arts, all of our co-curricular. And I'm very specific to use that phrase co-curricular because I feel very strongly that our athletic programs are not something extra. They're an integral part of our comprehensive middle school and high schools. So for those of you who are new, I'm the district athletic director. I oversee all of our interscholastic athletic programs in our 5 secondary schools. Something that I'd love to expand interscholastic athletics to our elementary schools to get them prepared to compete against other schools in middle school. Again, that would take time and money and all of those things, so I'm not here to ask for that today. But it's really important to know that when we're talking about education-based athletics and all of those other co-curricular programs as well, a lot of people will often refer to athletic programs as the front porch. If you think about driving down any neighborhood in any town or city or community, what's the first thing you notice about somebody's home? Their front porch, their landscaping. What does the house look like? You're not in their bedroom looking at their curtains and how many windows there are. So our athletic programs are the front porch. Take driving into Nashua North, for example, the first thing you see when you come down Titan Way is you see our fields. You see our tennis courts, you see our track, which Mr. Smith and his plant off staff do an unbelievable job taking care of for us at all 5 of our schools. Every game that we have on campus, at Stellos, at Holman Stadium, every game we put forth a pre-game announcement about sportsmanship and things like that, and it always starts that interscholastic athletics are an extension of the learning experience in the classroom. It is an extension of that. It's not something extra, above and beyond, totally separate. It is in tandem with what they're doing in the classroom. They learn core values such as accountability, commitment, excellence, responsibility, all while instilling the vision, mission, and values of our district. So it's really important that we know the purpose behind why we offer athletic programs. Our athletic programs prepare students, college, career, or military. No matter what they're going to do after high school. A little while ago, Dr. Andre talked about what our nearly 800 graduates did after graduation last year. Our athletic programs are helping prepare them for that. We talk a lot about getting our students to the finish line. You heard from Mr. Beer and Mr. Chopa about our special ed students and them progressing, and our ELL students and them progressing. This is another tier in keeping kids in school. It is another tier in being inclusive. Ms. Lewis asked that question earlier. A lot of our athletic programs have special education students and English language learners in our programs. We afford our coaches the information if a student has an IEP, a 504, or is an ELL student, so that they can ask questions. If they're seeing something during practices or events that is like, I need a little more support with this student, they can come to us, they ask us our questions and things like that. So it's something that helps students get to that graduation, get to stand on Stello Stadium and walk across that stage and get their diploma. Through our programs, they develop social, emotional, physical, and cognitive skills. There's a lot of things that go in every day. Some of the things that separate education-based athletics with other athletic programs is the certifications and education that our coaches are required, so that we're putting in front of our students the best role models that we can, who are going to teach them life skills. And oh yeah, by the way, they're also going to teach them some sport. Like, that's almost the secondary. We're going to hold students to high academic and behavior standards. When a student gets to the finish line, be it at the end of a season or be it 4 years, 12-season athletes, our seniors, that's been a huge commitment, and many of you can attest, not just of the kid, but of the family, to their education. Because if they're not getting the job done in the classroom first, they're not playing for us. They can't play for us by state standards, by city policy and by state standards. So they're held to higher standards behaviorally and academically, and a lot of our students really thrive on that. In a lot of ways, our athletic programs, as well as our other co-curricular programs, for some students, it's the only reason they come to school. It's the only reason they get up in the morning and come to school is so that they can go to that practice and they can play in that game. The other thing about our athletic programs is it's not just about our students who participate. Our athletic programs provide opportunities for the community as a whole. We do a lot throughout the year bringing people together. One of my favorite things that we do, some people call me crazy that I brought this back, but one of the favorite things we do is each season we have a middle school city championship. So we bring, I'll tell you specifically about the spring one because that's the most chaotic, but it's, in my opinion, the best. So on a Saturday afternoon in spring, every baseball player, softball player, and track athlete in our middle schools will be on this campus with all of our high school athletes also. It's utter chaos, but it's organized and it's safe. Let me throw that in there. And it's just an opportunity for our community. There are people, like we'll see them sitting up on the hill just watching, and they don't have anybody playing. They're just there because they saw a lot of cars coming to North and they wanted to know what was going on. We have community members who have been part of the Nashua community for years, and they'll just show up at our basketball games. They laugh because on Tuesdays and Friday nights, I usually start at one high school and finish at the other high school, and there are community members that do the same thing. They'll watch a half at one building and then go to the other building. And these aren't even students. They're not even people who have students in our district anymore. So it's an opportunity to provide that for our city. On both of these slides, you'll see two little bubbles. Those two bubbles are quotes from students. Every year, our scholar athletes have the opportunity to apply for a scholarship, and one of the things they have to do is they have to write an essay on how high school sports impacted their lives. So to tell our story of what we do, I thought from the students' point of view themselves. So that's what those two bubbles are. So here's a little bit about our participation from last year. As Dr. Andre said earlier, our participation last year pretty much went through the roof. We had the highest participation at all 5 of our secondary schools than we've had not just since pre-COVID, but in 10 or 12 years. So our students are becoming more and more involved. In last year, between the 2 high schools, this is not just seniors, we had 188 students that committed to playing a sport each of the 3 seasons. That's a huge time commitment, grade commitment, behavior commitment, commitment on the family's part. And it's really important to see that. We really treasure and honor our 12-season athletes. Those are students who play every season, all 4 years of their career. That's a huge accomplishment, and we have seen that number grow year over year since COVID. I believe last year each high school was over 20, which is really, really impressive. And our middle school participation continues to increase as well. Middle school participation is a positive and a negative simultaneously, because in our middle school programs and some of our programs, basketball and soccer and volleyball specifically, we are turning away more students than we can keep on our teams. It's just a reality because of our physical limitations of our gym space, our field space, our coaches, finances, et cetera. So that's one thing. Year over year, I talk about B teams. I talk about bringing those into the budget. I know I'm not asking for anything this year, but that's something that we really, as a school district, need to think about and talk about moving into the future. So we do offer 33 varsity programs at each high school and 12 programs at each of our middle schools, plus field hockey. Field hockey is a little unique that we have one program that the 3 middle schools play on together. That started about 13 years ago, and we just have not seen the participation blow up to the point that we can justify spending the money to have a team at each of the middle schools. But it is an opportunity for our students to get field hockey sticks in their hands in 6th grade rather than waiting till their freshman year. Let me just see my notes, make sure I didn't miss anything. So numbers, as Mr. Gray mentioned, you will have additional information from each of the department. That's where all my numbers and graphs, sorry, Mrs. Bishop, I don't have them tonight for you. You always like my graphs. So just to give you a little bit of numbers, 74% of the athletic budget is stipends and transportation. And when we talk about stipends, that's for our athletic coordinators, our equipment managers, and our 179 paid coaches in the district. So that takes up 74% of the budget. If you add in contract services, which is all of our scheduling programs, our registration programs, and most importantly, our athletic training services, that's our contract services. If you add contract services, officials, and assigners, you make up 95% of the athletic budget. So there's not a lot of fat, if you will, that we could trim there. So just to put that into perspective of where we are.
Okay, I don't see any questions. Anybody? Oh, you guys have to tell me. Miss Lewis, you go first.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say thank you. I'm a huge sports mom. When I was younger, I was also very involved in sports, and that's why I have my daughter doing sports literally 12 months throughout the year. It helped her so much with her, going to school, having an IEP, her feeling that she wasn't smart enough, and then giving her that power back to say, oh, hey, well, you're great at this, now apply that to school. So even though she has an IEP, right now she has straight A's, and I'm very proud of her for that. She goes to McCarthy Middle School.
Great.
I did want to ask a question about sports and adding this in, and this is only because this is a conversation that I've had with many different people within the public, and this is wrestling. So I know that we have a wrestling team for our high schools. I know that there is also the Boys and Girls Club, and my daughter, she did also participate, and so did many of the children that I know that are currently middle school state champions, but they're not a part of a middle school. So it's so hard to be here in Nashua and to be a big city and to have all of these students who are very involved in wrestling, and they're traveling to Lowell or traveling to other places just to be a part of a team. And our neighbors, for instance, we have Hudson, they have a middle school team. There's Amherst, there's Merrimack, there's, all these different areas that are surrounding us. So that's something that I would like to advocate for and like to see happen maybe within the next couple of years, is to implement a wrestling team. I think our wrestlers right now in Nashua and South are doing an amazing job. So to have that begin in middle school and to help gear them on that path, because, for instance, girls wrestling, that's a huge upcoming trend right now, is for all girls to get involved. And I would love to see that happen. And I know that we're having, you said that some children are being turned away because, they make a team, for instance, for basketball. To have another sport during that season, it could be a great way to get those kids still involved in sports and, help them while they're in school and maintaining their social emotional balance.
May I address that? Sorry. So some of the things that we've talked about adding programs historically, the ones that I've talked about are B teams in our middle schools, middle school lacrosse, which is very, very popular and is probably the single most asked about program, and then our middle school wrestling. So to give a little bit of history to our middle school wrestling program, the Boys and Girls Club used to run the programs in our schools. And that was obviously the best because it was right in the school, it was right there, it was more accessible to all of our families. And we partnered very well, even though it wasn't under the Nashua School District, we would put them on our registration program with all of our other programs. We would do clinics where their wrestling coaches would go into our phys ed classes and give a little pre-lesson on what the season would look like and things like that. We worked very, very hard with the Boys and Girls Club to maintain those mats in each of the 3 middle schools, and COVID happened.
Yes.
So during COVID, that's when it went 100% back to the Boys and Girls Club. At the Boys and Girls Club, we were trying to sort of keep people separate, as we all remember, unfortunately. And then our 3 middle schools, McCarthy was built, and the other 2 underwent renovations. There is no physical space in any of our middle schools to store wrestling mats. That is the problem right now. There is no physical location. At one point in time, and through fire safety and egress accessibility and all of that stuff, where we used to store them, we are no longer permitted to do that. At one point in time at Fairgrounds, they had actually built us a storage closet specifically for the wrestling mats, but when they underwent construction, they repurposed that. So all of the mats had to go back to the Boys and Girls Club. So I'm not saying it can't happen, but just to give you that little bit of historical perspective of why it's not currently in our middle schools.
Okay. Yeah, that's just something I would love to see happen, whether or not it's middle school students having an opportunity to use maybe the high school's mats. I actually know many different coaches that have mats and are willing to, donate their mats
I
as
don't
well.
think they're transporting them on a daily basis.
No, exactly that part, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely the transportation part. But yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
An accomplishment that you did was getting the girls hockey. I went to a game a few weeks ago, and the crowd was amazing. They won. The girls were amazing. It was so rewarding to see their excitement to have that sport now be available and for them to participate in it and to succeed in it. And it was just a great thing to see.
Well, thank you.
I also, I remember wanting middle school lacrosse when my lacrosse player was in middle school. So there's always those, things we want to see happen someday, and who knows, maybe, in the next few years we'll be able to get there. Just to pat his back, he was an IEP student. He played all sports as much as he could. He got a lacrosse scholarship to Division II school. He played internationally this last summer for Team Ireland over in South Korea. And a lot of that has to do with the success of the program. One of the things you discussed was the sports at the elementary school level, and one of the things I coached the Crusaders football team, and one of the things we did was we met with Coach Knight back then to try to develop a way for those kids to start implementing what Coach Knight wanted to see in football players at that third grade level, so they would follow it up. And I think there's a lot of that we can do with Park and Recs, with the Biddy and Bantam programs, with the Nashua Blast, with lacrosse, where having those, and I know the current coach of the lacrosse team is very involved in Nashua Blast, so I think we see more of the ability for our high schools to work with those youth programs and to support those youth programs that exist in the city that allows that bridge into the high school programs.
We are seeing more and more of that with the connections between our high school programs, our middle school programs, and our youth programs, that even though they're not under the school district, as Dr. Andrade says all the time, we're one Nashua. Those students are eventually going to come up and play through our middle schools and our high schools, and our head coaches right now are doing a really great job, not just our football coaches and lacrosse coaches, but our cheer coaches, our baseball coaches. Our baseball coaches go down and they do a clinic not just for Little League and Cal Ripken players, but for their coaches.
Yeah, it's great to see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to ask, Dr. Andrade. I had never thought to ask about ELL kids and special ed kids in this athletic programs until you asked it, Ms. Lewis. So thank you. I was wondering if maybe we could find out some more information about that.
Yeah, we'd love to come back and we could do a presentation. But I think the other aspect, we talk about students with disabilities, just the tremendous success of our unified programs as well. So I know.
Yes, I definitely like to learn more about that too.
So our unified programs, it's exciting when our special ed students play on our unified teams. So unified, for people who might not be familiar with that, is when special education students with intellectual learning disabilities play on a team with students without those disabilities or challenges. So in the fall at Nashua North, we have unified soccer. We haven't had it at South the past several years because there just hasn't been interest of our South students. Our basketball program is by far the most popular. There were probably, I believe, 54 students on the North Unified basketball roster this winter, to the point that they even, branched off a little bit and had a unified cheer on the side. So when the kids weren't on the court, they were on the sideline. And they did a whole halftime show at the North-South game, which was great. And then in the spring, we have unified track. So it's a great program for our special ed students. But what's even more promising to me is when our special ed students choose not to play unified and play on our mainstream team. We had a student specifically this winter who pretty severely special ed, used to play a unified basketball, and he said to his mom this winter, I don't want to do that anymore, I want to swim. And he was on our swim team. We had another student who, on the autism spectrum, wrestled, and then he also ended up swimming this year. So it's nice when our students go that other route and push themselves, and we hope that that's because of the environment that we're creating, building confidence, welcoming environment, an inclusive environment, that students are coming out. We have them in track, we have them on our bass fishing team, we have them throughout all of our programs.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, Mr. Ayman, go ahead.
When you were talking about ELL and sports, the union leader did a big spread about a month ago, maybe a few weeks ago, about the South girls basketball team. She's the captain?
She's a graduating senior this year.
Yeah, who was an ELL student, and she talked all in the article about how basketball is what really was her hook for becoming proficient in English, and then also successful academically along with her basketball. It was a beautiful article, great pictures.
If you ever had the opportunity to meet that young lady, that article didn't do her justice.
Really, it was a lovely article.
Yep, she's a great kid.
Excellent. Wow. Okay, anybody else?
Just one more question. And thank you again for providing these athletic programs. I think it's really amazing. I did want to ask about gender-related sports, for instance, like baseball and softball. I know there's a softball team offered, and usually that's females, right? And same thing for baseball and males. Is it either or?
So
in the middle school and high school?
At the middle school and high school level, if baseball, softball, let's put that aside for 1 second. So we offer boys and girls soccer, boys and girls track, boys and girls cross country, lacrosse, basketball, things like that. So if it is offered in both genders, then you have to go by the gender that you are legally. What's on your birth certificate. That's the gender you have to play for. If your school does not offer it in your gender, girls can play on the boys' teams, but not the other direction.
Okay.
So for instance, before we started our girls' ice hockey program, we had females playing on our boys' ice hockey team. We have girls on our boys' football team. Wrestling is now considered co-ed. So those, football and hockey, were probably the two biggest ones. Baseball and softball, by definition of the National Federation, the National Federation of High School Associations, baseball and softball are not equivalent sports, so girls can play baseball.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Ms. Bishop?
It's been like racking my brain for a question because I normally have so many, and I miss sitting at all the sports games. I feel like I had like 4 jobs last year, and now I only have 3. Open enrollment, if kids move in and out of the district, and I know I was saying earlier that one of the draws of our district is the Division I sports that we have, are we anticipating any shifts in status or anything?
So that's a great question. That's a great question.
Thank God.
Yeah. As the state legislature navigates that and local school district navigates it, so is our governing body, the New Hampshire Interscholastic Athletic Association. Right now, there is a bylaw on the books that if a student transfers into a district, into a school, without a corresponding family move, they are to sit for 365 days. That is the current bylaw on the books. There is a waiver process to go around that for a variety of different reasons. So it's going to be very interesting as this open enrollment law kind of explodes a little bit to see whether or not that bylaw is going to become more restrictive or more open. So that's sort of where we're navigating right now at the state athletic side. And we're looking at a lot of the other states and what they've done. Like Florida is just crazy with their athletic programs. Kids can come and go and transfer schools and play a fall sport at one school and then a winter sport at another school. And it's just the wild, wild west right now in terms of transfers. Whereas other states have gone more of a, okay, well, you have one free, but then after that, there's these consequences, these stipulations, these guidelines. So it'll be very interesting as we navigate through the rest of the spring what's going to happen. But again, as of right now, there is a bylaw on the books that you sit 365 if you transfer without a family move.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
I feel like we should say that really loudly.
There is currently a waiver process, but again, that may change given the open enrollment situation.
Right. Okay.
Stay tuned.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Gingras.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. We're going to transition now to technology. Mr. Rodriguez, if you can come down to join me, please. On his way. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, let's talk technology.
I always love being followed up by Ms. Gingras. I'm not as exciting as athletics, so I'll just say that. So I'm Greg Rodriguez. I'm the Director of Technology for the Nashua School District. So I'm just going to give a high level of what we're facing for what we plan to purchase for the following year. This is the last part of our infrastructure project that we've been working on since COVID, or since 2020. So this is the last part, and this is a core switch. So this core switch is located at South, and this is what feeds all of the internet from our Comcast pipe. So everything that comes through South, and then it goes out to all the schools and all the building locations throughout the district. So as part of that, this is the backbone of our internet pipe throughout the district, and that's what goes through our phones, our internet, pretty much everything runs on this. And we also have fiber that runs throughout the city. So all of our buildings are interconnected. And then we have, as part of those, we're also getting we need 4 other switches that are kind of the brains of those at the schools, so the plumbing can go back and forth, not the literal plumbing, Mr. Smith, but the plumbing of internet. Those are gonna be at 4 elementary schools and district office. So that's the major infrastructure upgrade that we're facing, and this is the last part. And this is E-rate eligible. For those who don't know what E-rate is a program by the FCC for schools and libraries that gives us a 60% discount rate, and that's based on our school free and reduced lunch for our students in the district. So because of our rate of free and reduced lunch, it's 60% eligible. So that $253,000 will have a 60% discount. Mr. Gray looks like she's about to say something.
I just want to share, thank you. So that $253,000 you'll see in the budget. The 60% sounds great, but when we build a budget, we don't ever want to assume that's coming in prior to. So if it does come in and it qualifies as we're anticipating it to qualify, then we'll bring that forward to the board just to share that the E-rate basically reimbursement was given. But from a budgetary standpoint, you won't see 253 at a 60% reduction, just for clarity.
Moving on, if there are any questions.
Sorry, Ms. Raymond. Sorry.
I just have a question on the core switches. How long do those last?
The core switches, so we had that last one replaced in 2018, so roughly 8 to 9 years. So our plan is to always, this is the year that our core switches South is end of life. So after that, warranties are up, and if that goes down, we have no internet throughout the district until that is either repaired or replaced. And so this is probably the most crucial piece of infrastructure that we have in the district.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So moving on to what we're seeing for our laptops. So our laptop refresh, would you believe that we purchased our laptops roughly 6 years ago? Yes. So with that time in between, we have seen considerable wear and tear. Our teachers love them, and as they should. We at our 7 assistant system administrators maintain those laptops along with desktops, Chromebooks, interactive panels, the whole lot. They have considerable wear and tear, and it's time to start replacing those laptops. So what we started last year is purchase new laptops for new staff. So these new laptops for new staff kind of gives that wow factor. But we're also seeking to replace 200 laptops this year. There should be an asterisk next to that 250,000 right there because of the hardware demands inside of any computer server or any computer-related project, chips, anything. The cost of this hardware inside has gone up roughly 30%, and it's not set to stabilize until the third quarter of 2027. So this is the reality of what we're seeing. And this has a lot to do with the dedication of AI data facilities. So they're not going towards consumer grade products, they're going towards business related products. So those are our data farms, the actual memory and the solid state drives that actually go into these computing type devices in the industry. So, and this is what our suppliers have told us. So we're preparing for, I guess, the worst when it comes to purchasing. And again, this is going to trickle down to Chromebooks as well. So we're probably going to see it come July when we do purchase these devices. July 1st is when we can, but there's an expectation that the prices are going to go up, and that's when we're going to have to start readjusting. Moving on to Chromebooks, we support one-to-one Chromebooks for secondary students, and this goes for every 6th and 9th grader will receive a Chromebook at their middle school, and they'll have it throughout their time at that school. And then we reassess that Chromebook when that student gives it to us when they move on to either 9th grade or they move on after graduation. But usually, just like the laptops, they do take a beating just because they go into backpacks. They're used every day, and they're really used in every facet of their education. For the parents who, I'm sure your student uses it all the time, right? Yeah. So yeah, it's important, and this is an initiative we started in 2021. So, and we do have a large end of life Chromebooks, because the Chromebooks do have an expiration date. Google sets an expiration date for these Chromebooks. And as part of this renewal for the next 5 years, what we're forecasting, instead of being $3 million that is needed to purchase in 2029, it's going to be $1 million because we're starting that refresh process now for secondary students. So that's going to alleviate the cost for future. And plus, as prices go up, it's probably going to be even more. We could be even seeing 3.2, 3.3 million at that time. So just to prepare you, we support a lot of software in the district, a lot. In every single department, whether it's business office, plant operations, athletics, ELL, you name it, curriculum, it's there. There's a lot of software that we purchase. It's well over $1 million. So, and that's including our Microsoft licensing as well. So, it ensures, safe, reliable, and secure daily operations. Without it, we'd be back to pen and paper. It'd probably be a lot cheaper, but it'd probably be way less ineffective. So I think the interactive panels is part of that bucket 3 and buckets that we were talking about that we're going to see later on. The district has made an attempt to put interactive panels in every single classroom. The elementary schools have it in all the core classrooms. The middle schools at McCarthy have interactive panels in all their classrooms, and then the Fairgrounds and Pennachuck, during the time of the JSSBC projects, the projectors are actually in those schools. But the next effort is probably going to be put towards the high schools and trying to meet their needs. And meeting with building principals this past year, there is interest to have them in the classroom and really having their curriculum, being used as a tool with the interactive panels.
Mr. Amond?
Okay, what's the lifetime on the panels?
but roughly 10 years is what we're seeing. If they're, if they're used properly, power cycles and whatnot, they're not, I'm gonna say they're just like TVs, so I don't want to say that, but they're, you do have to maintain them. They do require updates quite regularly, and proper use is always, just like any electronic, if you use it correctly, they'll last long, even cars.
I was wondering, you have $360,620 annually for the Chromebooks.
Yes.
Now, if the prices go up in July, does that account for that at all, or is this the price now?
It's just the price that we received, and it's tough for us because it's tough for us to project that, especially with Chromebooks and the volatility. It's almost like the stock market at times.
Yeah, you think it's possible it might be similar to the laptops at a 30% increase? Oh, my goodness.
It's possible, yeah.
Okay.
I'll just give a little perspective. Back in during the COVID time, to purchase a Chromebook and licensing, it was $180 to purchase a Chromebook. Now we're looking at $250. So that's what we're seeing for pricing for Chromebooks.
Okay. Anyone have any questions?
I do have another slide if we want to talk.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
If you want to get me off the stage, I'm fine.
I'm getting tired.
I'll try to make you less tired, so I'll do a song and dance. So as part of the major budget lines, the contracted services is the major capital repair having to do with the infrastructure upgrade with the core. We do lump that in because these are very specialty devices and require a lot of attention. So we do hire as part of a consultancy firm to actually help us, configure and install that. So that's included with the price of the equipment. Also, professional development. Our staff likes to learn. They like to learn new things. And we go to conferences as well to learn about what industry trends are, because IT and ed tech are, you blink and it's already changed. So we have to keep up with those trends. For computer supplies are $50,000, and that is to fix broken screens, laptops, Chromebooks, keyboards, whatnot. It's all included. Our computer equipment includes the laptops, the Chromebooks, and interactive panels to support the district teaching and learning and business operations. And like I said, our software budget is well over $1 million, and that spreads throughout every single department in the district. So what we're seeing for upcoming trends, and I did allude a little bit to this, is that the memory and storage capacity are increasing significantly, and this will impact future budgets, not only this year but the years going forward. It's a reality, and our vendors have warned us with that. Chromebook end of life cycle. We are seeking, just because of student enrollment, come 2029 and 2030. We want to bring it down to 10,000. We have roughly 12,000 right now, but we want to bring those. Not going to be renewing all of those. The majority, I would say 90% of those Chromebooks purchased right there were purchased with grant money, COVID funds, ESSER, and hardly any operating budget. So that is what is included in those numbers right there. And these are the Chromebooks that are going end of life in those years. So in 2029, roughly 8,500 Chromebooks are going end of life. That means they're not going to be usable in the district. They're not going to get updates, and we will not be able to use them. Crystal looks like...
I just want to share, based off of kind of the technology plan and what we're doing as a district, with some of this equipment becoming end of life, not everything is in the FY27 budget, right? So when I look at, and you folks have the detail, but when I look at the budget detail report, there's $825,620 worth of computer equipment that we currently are suggesting to purchase for next year. I think the important message here is, because of the amount of Chromebooks and laptops and touch panels that we're now moving into, there is definitely a lot more money that could be spent in technology next year if there were funds available, to start to get ahead of this trend of the Chromebooks potentially being obsolete come 2029. So those are things just to think about. Unfortunately, when it comes to technology, we're not gonna go and bond a couple $1 million, right, to refresh all of our technology. So we do need to go ahead and make sure that we have a pretty robust technology plan as we move forward to say how many Chromebooks, laptops, touch panels, et cetera, are we replacing every year. So there's some money set aside for next year based off of the proposal, but if there is additional money available, I would advocate, we probably should be investing actually even more in our equipment related to technology.
Just a question. Computer software, 1.15 million. What kind of software we are talking about?
Yep. So in the supplemental budget presentation that I have, that is broken down line by line of every single piece of software that totals the $1.15 million in there. So, and that includes our Microsoft licensing, our budgeting software, our security software, so that with firewall licensing and, our antivirus licensing. All of that is encompassed in that line right there. Even some curriculum software is included in there. We also incorporate plan ops, transportation, the whole thing. So it's not just IT, but it's what we support for the district as well.
The business software also.
Business software as well, correct, yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Oh, Ms. Raymond.
I can wait for Dr.
I think that even with the computer software, and thank you, Dr. Rodriguez, on that, but we are looking at, I think Mr. Smith talked about the plan ops software is old. We actually, and you'll appreciate this in your field, is that we actually have a lot of antiquated programs that need upgrades, so even when we talk about the AI impact, we have some very older versions, of some of our programs, not age-wise the person, but I think our software programs need to be updated. We're having conversations with the city right now on looking at new budgeting, new ERPs, just to bring us up to date. There are some programs, I have conversations with Mr. Gray when she's looking at the budget, that there's one product we only use during the budget season. It's $100,000. But the city is actually, that's how they use it and for taxes, but we're obligated to use it. So there were a lot of conversations with that. We look at some efficiencies, but then to Mr. Gray's point, we might have to increase our investment for updated software.
The software, Mr. Smith talked about software, his software. Would that come out of his budget or would it come out of your budget?
So it usually comes out of, and Mr. Smith and I actually met a couple weeks ago to actually talk about the old software, as Dr. Andre put it. So we did meet and we spoke about that. Just because they do require special maintenance by our team on those, because they're not up to date with other pieces of software, even cloud-based software. We don't support them in our data facility. So these are continued conversations that need to be had about what are we doing to move forward, to actually even make his systems work more efficiently through better software. Just like he said, when they came out, they were as good as sliced bread. There's better bread right now. There's some good sourdough.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Ms. Raymond?
Thank you. So one thing that I've noticed kind of in my personal life is that things that we used to buy are now becoming subscription services. Like even Word, for my ancient laptop here, I can't own Word on it anymore. I got to pay Microsoft monthly. And everything to do with my car apparently is a subscription. Are we finding that for school systems too? Are we
a little bit.
Renting licenses now instead of actually owning?
No, that's exactly it. That's why our software is what it is we license software every year. So we don't own the software that we purchase. It's licensed for a specific term. And we're trying to co-term our software. Co-term means we're trying to put it in the renewal dates that are at July 1st instead of having mid-year. So we're kind of stretching as far as we can to get to a different point, so we can actually have the same the renew time at the same time of year. And they are all subscription-based. We don't own this. We really don't own the software. But you go up. You're looking at a 5 to 8% increase in software every year. I think a couple of years ago, our software budget was about $900,000 for the same exact product.
Right. So is there anything to be done about it? I mean, I got a Subaru last year, and everything is a subscription, and it is I'm just not going to have remote start. Like that's what we've decided. But like, yeah, because you have to pay a subscription for it, and I'm not doing that. I mean, the radio is a subscription. It's annoying as heck. But my question is there any way around it? Like on my car, I could go to Boomer McLeod and he can install me a remote starter. Like, is there any way around this constant increase in fees every year above the cost of inflation? Because like, you know, the city says you have 3%, but if every single subscription we have is 10%, like, what do we do? Is there anything we can do?
I think this goes back to what Mr. Gray was saying and Dr. Andrade about if we have a budgeting software that's used, you know, only for a specific time, are there other solutions out there that are better? We're very ingrained with some. There's some we just can't get rid of, like Microsoft. Microsoft is in everything that we do, and that's one of our bigger software purchases. But everything else, it does. You also do get what you pay for. You know, if you want a quality piece of software that is tested and that is true, you're going to have to pay for it, or we're going to have to pay for it. So, you know, and if we buy cheap for the sake of cheap, then the result is going to be what it is.
But there's no option at this point to like own things versus leasing them.
Even when we host our own software to support, we still pay a subscription fee for those softwares. Yeah.
I'm like beyond annoyed at modern technology.
That's why all these tech companies are getting, you know, they're billionaires and trillionaires, and the rest of us are not. They were pretty smart about the way they did this.
Yeah, everything is going on cloud, and cloud is subscription-based, so we might end up paying a lot of subscription fees down the line.
We still are, yeah. Yeah. But there's also inherited, you know, savings when you go to the cloud. We don't really have to maintain as much hardware on premises too. So there's a lot less capital expenditure that we're also going to be, like, a lot less capital that we have to buy to maintain the hardware. So if we do cloud, we're actually, there may be a flat, you know, in the future because we're not buying the hardware, and that's something that we're going to look at in 2028. So.
We are working, just for some clarity, we are working with the city right now to talk about some financial software, some budgeting software, some HR software for recruiting, because like everything, as it's been discussed here, our financial system at some point is going to have to go to the cloud as well, and that's going to be a pretty significant undertaking. So there is a subcommittee working with the city, myself and a couple others, to figure out what is a new ERP system or an HRIS system and or recruiting. So we are looking right now between school and city to say, how much money are we spending on all these various software systems, and how can we almost move to what I like to call as like a one-stop shop. Of course, that's going to come with a price tag, but we are hopeful that in the budget process for FY27, we can start to work through some type of new system implementation with partnership at the city level to be able to hopefully drive down some of the software costs. But of course, it's going to be offset with potentially a new program or a more enhanced program that we currently have.
Go ahead, Ms. Bishop.
Have we explored, and obviously I haven't asked you about this if you don't know the answer, but instead of doing school to city, could we partner with like another school who would use the same resources? I get that it would be a weird budget thing to do, but I mean, Manchester's a tiny bit bigger than us, and they probably need all of the same IT subscriptions. Would that be something that we could explore, or is that?
I actually think there's a law that is being proposed to consolidate school districts.
It's not there yet.
It's not there yet, but I think Nashua and Manchester would be there's like standalone school districts. So there was consortium talks and consortium pricings. I believe that's from the superintendent or the NASBO stuff, like information that came down from Concord. So the thing is, we'd be tied to that consortium cost. Right. Where it may be advantageous because we'd all use the same software, but then we're actually kind of locked in to use the same software. It might not meet everybody's needs. So there are pros and cons to that. So that's just something, that's just a realization that we have to come with. But what may work for one district is not necessarily going to work for another. I can speak from experience. Manchester and Nashua are completely different environments. Even though we're similar in size, completely different. We run things extremely different with our IT infrastructure compared to them. So,
I just feel like the schools would have more overlap than we would with the city.
yeah.
Mr. Johnson?
I would also think with that security would be an issue. If it's, being shared with another system, you're opening up to more chances of,
Yeah, sprawl is a security risk. You don't want to get too big in your threat, and you don't want vulnerabilities to, the bigger space you have, the more vulnerable you are. Yep.
Anybody else? Okay, all right, thank you, Dr. Rodriguez.
All right. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to kick into a couple curriculum slides. Mr. Posca and Dr. Scarpati are going to go ahead and go next.
Thank goodness we're keeping it short.
Thank you, and I think we will be fairly brief. All right, so we are looking to maintain our core comprehensive K-12 curriculum in all subject areas for next year, including renewal of licenses, replenishment of texts and supplies for our core programs, which I'll run through quickly. With that, we are anticipating some slight increases just due to natural increases in costs year over year, but not anything in terms of a major new purchase. So we are looking to maintain our programming in Foundations, which is our K-3 foundational skills program, think phonics, right? M-Class, which is our DIBELS foundational skills assessment, which runs K-5. CKLA, which is our core language arts program at the elementary level, Eureka Math K-5, and Amplify Science K-8. Also looking at the iReady, which is the language arts and math assessment and instructional module program at the middle school level. Social studies textbooks, if you'll recall, we paid for half of that out of this current year's budget. We need to pay the rest of the money for that. So the second half of that for middle school out of next year's budget. Looking at the formative assessment program for the high school level, and the Elevations platform for ELL. That's really a data warehousing system for our ELL students, and it also includes some work and support for teachers around instructional strategies to utilize with students depending on their assessment results. A couple of shifts at the elementary level, and this is on our rescheduled curriculum agenda for tomorrow. But I am looking to reduce purchases in some areas with regard to workbooks that are underutilized in language arts and math, as well as some student subscriptions in language arts that are underutilized. And by reducing those inefficiencies, we can add some additional literacy intervention programs for our students that are below level at the elementary level with that same funding. In addition, we currently use Lexia as an online student practice platform for literacy. Which is very expensive. You can get Boost, which is Amplify's version of that. Amplify makes M-Class, which is the literacy assessment we use. Boost is their online instructional module that goes with that. So we can actually get the literacy Boost, and we can add on the math M-Class assessment and the Math Boost practice program, all for the same price that we would be paying for Lexia. So that would be my recommendation of getting more bang for our buck there, as well as we really don't have great interim assessment data for math at the elementary level. So this would give us that tool so we could better track student progress over the course of each year in math. So that's a slight change, but not really a monetary impact at the elementary level. And then on the next slide, this is for awareness. From initial Reports we're hearing from the state, it sounds like grant funding should be about status quo for next year, which is hopeful. We just want to make sure that everyone is aware, though, that currently all district-run professional development is funded through our Title II funds, which are significant, as well as supplemental programming, our Ed Club, which is our digital literacy curriculum at the elementary level, Vocabulary and Learning Ally at middle school level, and the Your Way AI programming K-12 are all funded through Title IV funds, as well as our Power Scholars Elementary Summer School program that is funded through Title IV in conjunction with Title I and YMCA funding. So just those are significant programs that live in those federal grants, just for everyone's awareness.
You know, I think, as Dr. Scarpati alluded to, and hopefully for the members of the board, as you look at some of the curriculums we're looking at, you don't see a lot of changes as what we've had. So a lot of it is some, promoting some consistency of the work we're doing, particularly K-8 with a lot of those programs. And I think it goes back to a comment that Ms. Gingras said about what is our story. We're trying to stay consistent with our practice, allowing our staff to become comfortable with it. Again, when we talk about some of those, the data aspects of it, allowing us to get some of the M-Class and Boost data can kind of inform our instruction at the elementary level, along with, where we can consistently using iReady at the middle school level to help inform our instruction in some of our practices, specifically in math and ELA. The formative program allows the high school to grab some formative data in all their content areas, so that staff can then kind of monitor the student progress as we're going forward on a day-to-day basis. As Dr. Andre has kind of alluded to previously, particularly at the secondary level, at the high school level, we are a little bit data starved. So this does allow us to, to the staff to capture some of that data to inform their practices going forward. As well as what Dr. Scarpati said, the importance of our federal grants. That's where a lot of our professional development lies going forward, and how we do a lot of the work, writing some activities to make sure we have things in place for all of our staff. Title II and Title IV, we've kind of outlined some of the things that we do in those programs going forward. We've worked with Mr. Gray over the last year to kind of remove some salaries that had previously been in Title II, so that allows us some more, funding available to a variety of resources going forward to make sure we have that available to us as things come up. This spring, as we do our needs assessment, that will kind of drive and help inform us of the activities and some of the work that we have to put in place going forward for the 26-27 school year, with not only some of our PD, but any other activities that we may want to put in place to help support and supplement some of the things that are in our operating budget, as you see. So I think at this time, if there's any questions, Ms. Lampier, we'd be open to answering them.
My question, the first one I thought of is these curriculum programming and stuff, do they all support differentiation for kids with different abilities in the same classroom and stuff?
Yes, to varying degrees, yes, as much as any program does. And I would add that I think a lot of that comes from professional development as well, in terms of how do you use this program, which addresses the grade level standards, and then how do you take that and really make it work and meet the needs of all of the students that are in front of you. So kind of both pieces to that, the curriculum, but also the what are the assessments that tell us where students have gaps, and then what instructional skills are we helping teachers to build to make it meet all of those needs.
So I think since we're not changing much of the curriculum, the teachers will be learning over time each year. They'll get a little more professional development and be able to use these systems more effectively, right?
Absolutely.
And I think as we talked about last year, Ms. Lanfear, we talked about our elementary staff and how, kind of the quote we use is of the fire hose of kind of some of the curriculums were thrown at them over the last couple of years. So I don't want to say this has given them a little break, but it has given them a little break and kind of try to start to own some of that curricula that we've purchased for them. They're implementing on a daily basis. And to Dr. Scarpatti's point, what is the additional professional development or other supports that we need to put in place so that they can continue to own that curricula going forward?
Are we going to lose anything by not having Lexia?
Lexia and Boost are essentially the same concept of a product. Lexia has some more bells and whistles. It's a little fancier, but they, in my opinion, we can argue more at curriculum committee tomorrow about it. But they serve the same general purpose, in my opinion.
Okay. All right, any questions? Okay.
All right, I'm seeing no additional questions. I'm going to keep us moving. We have about 12 slides left. I see a lot of folks dozing off, so you get to listen to me for most of the next 12 slides related to the fun part, the data and the finances. Let's talk transportation real quick. So as most folks may be aware, Nashua School District, we go ahead and transport about 52 regular education buses every single day, 43 special education buses. In school year 24-25, from a private transportation standpoint, or our McKinney-Vento students, we spent over $500,000 in transportation. Our charter school students account for about 24 what we refer to as tiers of the fleet schedule. Assuming each tier is about 1/3 of a bus, that equates to about $1 million in operating costs that we spend every single year to transport our charter school students. I think there's been a few questions around transportation, so hopefully some of this answers it, and if it doesn't, I'm more than happy to provide some additional clarity at a future meeting. So due to the constraints of the tiering scheduling model, and basically what we mean by that is in the morning, we usually run 3 tiers. So it would be a high school, a middle school, an elementary tier as far as transportation goes. If we go ahead and adjust that slightly in order to pull some buses off the road, we will be adding time to these transportation routes. And as I mentioned, I believe last week, we try to keep, the maximum of about 40 minutes, and that's kind of high for some of our students. So again, can we reduce busing? Can we reduce costs? Of course we can, but then that's going to impact our students, and we will go ahead and have students on buses longer. I would not suggest it. The Nashua School District, we go ahead and transport roughly 4,000 students every single day from a ridership standpoint. Next slide on transportation, just a high-level overview. I know we have some new Board of Ed members. So this year for fiscal year 26, we went ahead and signed a new contract after we went through an RFP process with transportation. First student was awarded a 5-year contract. We knew by accepting this 5-year contract that year 1, we'd see a pretty hefty increase at 19%. Year 2, which is next year, fiscal year 27, we'd see about a 14% increase. And then in 28, 29, in fiscal year 30, we would drop that increase down to about 5%. So in the transportation budget, you will see over a 14% increase, and I'll give some clarity there. I thought it was helpful just to note we do have additional expenses when we talk about transportation. We provide a lot of transportation to our students. We go ahead and run a couple late buses, we run midday buses, we run shuttle buses back and forth between the high schools as well as our CTE program. That's it for transportation. Before I hop to the next slide, any questions?
Ms. Raymond?
Thank you. I have two questions. One, regarding the open enrollment public hearing that we had earlier today. The open enrollment versus variances. So for each of those, I know it's two separate things. Is our district going to be responsible for the cost of transporting students who are not going to their home school, whether it be out of district or within district?
No.
Go ahead.
No, there's no obligation to transport.
I think we're all. No, okay, great. So we should not expect an additional increase in transportation costs because of those changes. Great, okay. And then the other question I have is about the McKinney-Vento students. And I know from my time as a social worker that we have a legal obligation to transport students who become homeless wherever they are, right? Is it one company? Is it multiple companies? Does it depend? Is there anything we can do? Because I feel like with the cost of living and the cost of housing increasing, that we continue to see more families experiencing issues with housing and being transient.
Sure. So we definitely have seen a substantial increase over the last several years, for sure. We do have a little bit of state, federal money that is given to us every single year to help with this cost. In addition, one of the things I implemented when I stepped into the seat a year and a half ago or so is we are now doing some cost sharing for this transportation with other districts, but also the reverse. They are cost sharing with us. So for instance, if we have a Nashua student that is displaced, they are now living in Manchester, we do transport them from Manchester to Nashua, and then the same thing, vice versa. We would go ahead and work with Manchester or whoever the other school district is to do what we call a cost share. We've collected just under $300,000 last year related to that cost share. In addition, through the Title I grant, we are currently working to see if we can operate some McKinney-Vento vans potentially with federal funding to really cut down on this cost. I would say we actually exhaust kind of all of our resources when it comes to getting our students to school based off of federal law. We have to, regardless of the cost. We always go to first student. They have what I would call as first right of refusal. If they can help us transport those students, they do. Otherwise, we are using third-party companies. So Safe Wheels, Gentle Care are just some of the agencies or some of the companies that we do use for this additional transportation. And that can be pretty costly for sure. I think I saw an invoice for last month. It was right around $200,000 just from one of our Gentle Care or Safe Wheels vendors. So you'll see as we get later into the presentation, I am advocating that we put some additional money in operating budget under special education, because that is kind of the pool of money that also transports our McKinney-Vento students.
Okay. And then are the students who are placed through like foster care or JSSBC outside of Nashua included in McKinney-Vento, or are they just included in regular transportation or somewhere else?
Yep, so they're usually included in special education transportation.
Thank you.
And I just want to add, we've been advocating at the state level on, there's no regulation on how much a third party can charge us. So we're hoping for some kind of regulation, some kind of cost that would prohibit third parties from charging us an exorbitant amount of.
I feel like Mr. Salvi and I could potentially.
Well, I was hoping there was a
write
couple
bill
state
next
reps.
fall,
I
right?
was hoping there was a couple state reps around here, but we have been advocating for a limit on how much people are charging us, because they kind of have us over a barrel. And First Student is actually expanding their van force, which will limit some of the costs too. But again, that doesn't prohibit another third party from charging us a lot of money, so.
Question. Have we done any kind of a study in last couple of years that how we can reduce the transportation cost? For example, I learned during last couple of weeks that there are some students who really doesn't use the bus, but they are registered. Is there any way that we can collect the data and we can request them that if you're not using the bus, just try to get out of that list and we can reduce the cost that way? Or is there any kind of a study done that there is a possibility to reduce the transportation costs? Otherwise, we are just every time we are trying to ask more and more money towards it, and we have the same service, our number of students are going down, still we need more money. So there is some way we can control that cost, because if the number of students, enrollments are going down, if the students are not using the bus, and still our transportation cost is going high. So is there any kind of a study done?
So I think to answer your question, yes, we had First Student go ahead and give us the number of ridership. Now, some bus drivers were great about doing it, other bus drivers not so good. We did that, I think, the first or second week of February. With that being said, we're seeing about 4,000 students ride our school buses every single day. If parents are not making us aware that their student at any level doesn't need transportation, then we are putting them on a bus. We don't pay for the number of students that are sitting on the bus. We pay, and the chart up here shows, we pay the cost per bus. So yes, can we reduce busing on the roadway? Sure. But I would say it's got to be a joint partnership that families have to make us aware. If their son or daughter or student is not, doesn't require transportation, they need to let us know. Otherwise, we are adding them to a bus for that transportation. Every single year, we always ask families to make sure they're updating their information in the system. Probably like anything, I think sometimes folks do it and other times they don't. So unless we are notified by a family that they do not need transportation, if that student lives within the boundaries of transportation being provided, they are going to be assigned a bus until we are notified they do not need transportation.
Dr. Andre, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I just, along those lines, we did a survey, what was, I think last year, in the last couple of years, on parents on why do they sign up and not sign up. So a lot of it, it's like, I hate to say it, the culture, like it's a just in case. So they're signing up just in case I may need the bus, right? And so it's how to break the habits for the parents to say, if you truly don't need, we'll pick on Bicentennial, right? The line at Bicentennial is down the street. It's crazy, right? But those parents still sign up sometimes for transportation. So it's like we have to break that kind of cycle as well. But to Mr. Gray's point, when we actually route, it's how many kids are in that area, and then even if we reduce 3 or 4 kids, it's still going to be in that area without expanding it to another section of town. So the ridership, even though we schedule about 110%, we have like ridership at 60%. But again, if you expand the routes, now we're talking about routes over 100, just by taking like 4 or 5 kids off who may or may not be there. So, but again, I think the bigger aspect is, I would ask the Board of Education, when you're talking to your constituents, it's really the parents who are signing up for the buses. And like, if they don't need the bus, to let us know that they don't need the bus and we can reroute a little differently.
Ms. Lewis?
Thank you. I wanted to, I guess, learn a little bit more about our public transportation. So like, do we know the number of high school students that use the buses?
Like the city bus?
The city bus?
No, the buses that we're paying for, the school buses.
Yeah, we have the number of routes at the high school. I think what's hard tracking the high schools is it's nice that we have 3 sport athletes, but then we have, it depends on the season. We might see more students ride the bus in the spring as opposed to the fall, depending on how many student athletes or what's kind of going on, and then who gets their license. So the high schools are a little harder to track, even though. And that's where we do the reductions, right?
Do we, have we ever thought about, instead of providing buses for our high school students, to utilize the public transportation and to work in collaboration with them? I know in other cities, they give their students bus passes.
Yep. Yeah, so we've had conversations with the city on it. The city bus routes are good, but they actually take a lot of time. I mean, kids would be on a bus at like 5 o'clock in the morning because they're in one side of town, then they have to go downtown, take another bus, and it's not a direct route.
Yes.
And then
They could always adapt their routes, though,
No,
right? This is obviously working in collaboration and
so-
having a discussion.
Yeah, I know the city right now is going out for an RFP for their transportation. So and again, it's very limited on which streets they're actually picking up students. The other thing that's, I hate to say, more of sometimes I feel like we're a taxi cab service. At the beginning of the year, Mr. Gray can attest to, how many parents want their bus stop changed, right? And so they want door-to-door service, and so even with the transportation, like the Nashua Transit Authority, it's only on major routes. They're not going down side routes. People are going to have to walk to the main aspect, the main roads, but in those sections of town, our buses are going through as well, so it's almost a duplication of effort. But I think just in like a Boston, New York, or other places, their public transportation is just a lot more direct than Nashua's.
Of course. And of the 4,000 students, do we have an idea, a general idea of how many high school students are using the school buses?
Yeah, we can get those
Again,
numbers.
yeah, another day too.
Yeah, and we can get the exact numbers.
Thank you.
Ms. Raymond?
We're still charging high schoolers to take the bus, right? High school families have to pay for their bus pass. So whether they use it or not, they've purchased it for the year.
Yeah, but it doesn't cover the cost of the bus.
And is that waived for free and reduced?
Yes.
I don't want to raise the bus passes, but I wonder if that's been discussed. Because we have to provide them by law through grade 8 regardless. Like, we can't just not provide buses even if people don't want them. The law says we have to. But for high school, we could potentially, well, we charge them for bus passes, but we don't charge them the same as what it costs. And we charge them to park too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been several years since we've increased the bus pass cost. It's definitely something we can look at. I know we had taken a quick look at it last year when there were other areas that we were recommending increases, but that is not one that we brought forward. But
How much do they pay now, Mr. Gray?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
It's $65 a student.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's 65 or 70 per student.
Yeah.
And then it's another,
High school.
I forget how much it is for the parking pass. Because I want to say you get a discount, like my family, we bought both because sometimes my son is grounded from his car. So, so we bought both and you get a discount if you buy the bus pass and a parking pass.
I think the punishment would be you have to drive him to school.
No, I'm not
Drop him off
doing
in
that.
front. Hi, honey. Bye.
I was wondering about the charter schools. I remember last year, we kind of talked, I remember last year, we kind of talked about working with the charter schools so that those kids would have less stops. Did that work out at all?
No.
Okay.
So we had a good conversation with our student this morning on some of the plans, some of the data that we're collecting. But we will be having a conversation with the charter schools shortly on some possible tweaks that might help us with some of the tiers.
Were they helpful at all last year?
So we have to transport the charter schools?
Yeah, but were they willing to work with the school district?
I think they're.
I'm trying to be polite.
I think there was I think they're willing to work with us as long as there's ample notice. So to Dr. Andre's point, we are working with First Student. We had a meeting this morning. First Student is going to come forward, I think, with some recommendations on potentially how we can cut costs a little bit further. And what does that look like? If it's truly we can't take buses off the road, is it bell times or other avenues that we potentially can look at? So we are looking at that for our own schools as well as our charter schools.
Were we spending $1 million on the charter schools last year too? Has it been able to be reduced at all, or is it still the same? Still the same? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Ms. Raymond?
Sorry, last question. Does that $1 million also include the private schools? Because I know kids can get vouchers and go to the private schools, and we also drive them.
Yep, that's all of them included.
Okay. For free.
Just to point out, you know, at the state legislators, they're taking away funds from public schools to give to charter schools, to give to private schools, to give to homeschooling, but they're taking money away from us, but they still want us to transport all these kids? That's true? Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, moving on to food service. So from a food service standpoint, I thought it was important to know at this time, as of January, we as a district have just over $5,000 in meal debt. We have, as we shared earlier, 9,501 students. There was a question that came forward, if we go ahead and pay for free lunch for all students for next year, roughly what would that cost us? You're looking at about a $3.1 million cost in order to provide free lunch across the board. We have just over 4,000 students that qualify for free or reduced lunch. Just a friendly reminder, if they're free for breakfast and lunch. If they are qualified as reduced pay, it is 40 cents. We have about 5,387 students that are currently paying. Last year, we did an increase to the cost of breakfast and lunch. Some of the board members might remember that. It was roughly a 20 cent increase. So on average, at the elementary level, it's $2.75 for lunch. Middle school is $3, and high school is $3.25. Just one more plug as we work through adequacy aid MERS and making sure we get as much funding as possible. There is a link here. Once this is posted, it will be live. If families are struggling and need some help and support from a food service standpoint, I would continue to advocate and point them to the free and reduced application that is always available on the website. All right.
Yep.
Moving. Yep.
All right, go ahead.
How the debt, how's that compared to last year?
So it is slightly higher than last year. I will say we have a little bit of a decrease in free and reduced lunch applications and approvals at this point. We knew with some of the SNAP benefits being placed on hold and what has happened over the last couple months, we expected to see that as an increase. From a financial standpoint, the administration team is getting the meal debt on a monthly basis from the food service team. If you truly think about the size of our district, 5,000 isn't a ton. It's actually, I don't want to say good because no debt is good for the most part, but it's not bad. We do have a lot of partners, community partners that quite often will come forward to say, can I provide a donation? Are there any families that might need some additional support? So throughout, we've had some private donations come forward. United Way has come forward. So there are definitely donations coming forward. I think as we've seen throughout the last couple of years, some of the school districts around us have had some pretty significant costs related to bad debt or related to meal debt. So 5,000, it's not great, but I would say a district this size, not too bad.
Oh, Ms. Raymond.
So I just want to clarify, because I know some of our other districts around the state have had like $100,000 in school lunch debt. But I've also seen articles in the paper about other districts saying no when a community agency wants to come in and help. Is Nashua's perspective that we help people? Like that we accept donations, not just the Meals That Matter program that the students run, but also privately?
Yep, absolutely.
And then are we still following the policy of allowing elementary students to eat and then having the school counselors reach out to families to help them apply for services?
That is correct.
Yep, and I think that's why we're only at 5,000 and not 100,000. I think really kudos to our building level staff, our counselors, our guidance counselors, our social workers, really making our family engagement coordinators, really making the connections with families to find out what's going on so that we can help them. Instead of it's a letter and then a debt collection, I think we're being really proactive in how to help families, and I think that's reflective in only $5,000 worth of debt.
Okay, great. Nashua has great people.
Just anecdotally, I don't think other districts have that policy, and I have a friend who went to go reload her kids' lunch money in another town, and it was negative $127, and she had just refilled it like a little bit ago. Kid was getting 2 breakfasts and 2 lunches because she liked them, but nobody was telling her no because they didn't want to tell her no. So she had to call and be like, what, like, is my daughter buying lunch for everybody? Is it like on me this month?
Right, so we have a policy that says you have to contact the family if it's like more than $10, but we also have on the My School thing, if you sign up for it, you can set a level. Like mine sends me an email when my kids get down to $10, like before they get below $10 to let me know that they spent it all too fast.
So as we kind of transition, I think we gave you a lot of information. And so the next couple slides, it's really going to be high level, and we welcome some questions, but we also have tomorrow night really to dive into it. So we want to set the tone tonight so that you can be ready for tomorrow's kind of discussion. So again, as we mentioned earlier in the evening, that we really look at our budget priorities, and our first major area is around our federal and state mandates. That's our special education, out of district costs, some contracted services. As I mentioned earlier, that we would look at our ELL staffing. Again, that's still an area of need that we would need new positions to build up the infrastructure in our ELL department. Our transportation, as we see those contractual obligations, we need to invest in our transportation. And then always safe, warm buildings. The nice to have is kind of in the middle. It shouldn't be, nice to have per se, but we also know we need to invest more in our math and reading interventionists, our Tier 1 curriculum support, making sure that we're building systems and that our teachers have assistance in making sure that they can provide that Tier 1 instruction. As we heard over the last year, that we need to invest more in behavioral support. And then, as Dr. Rodriguez said, how do we start funding our technology plan? We can't kick the can down the curb too far, or we're going to end up in really desperation. And then as we talk about our wish list, really, as you'll see, we haven't made major investments or talking about investments in ed tech. There's a lot of tools that are coming out now that are very personalized and beneficial to our students. How do we use ed tech a little differently? Our HR department, this is our a HRIS. We push a lot of paper in our HR department, which slows down the system, that sometimes we potentially lose candidates just because the system is so slow. Mr. Gray talked about our ERP system. This is our playgrounds. I think, again, this is our transition. If we get additional funding that our playgrounds is an outdoor classroom, I think we need to start investing in our playgrounds. Classroom furniture. When we met with all the building principals, furniture came up over and over again, whether it's cafeteria tables, student desks. There is just not a lot of money in our budget for furniture, especially at the building level. So these are the aspects where, depending on how much money we get, that we need to look at what's our next level of investment. We'll go from our federal and state mandates to our nice-to-have bucket to our wish lists and that kind of priority. Yeah, you got the next one?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, thanks. So a couple of things to highlight as we transition into the budget. So some major increases just to call out, and we'll look at pie charts on the next slide to go over. So transportation, as we mentioned, there's an additional $1.7 million currently right now added into next year's budget to offset the transportation increase that we're seeing. As mentioned, this is the second year of a 5-year contract. We've added additional money for special education and McKinney-Vento. Staffing services. We currently have a contract right now with ESS, which is basically our substitutes. When our teachers, our paraeducators, some of our secretaries and staff call out, this is the staffing service that assists in hopefully filling a majority of those requests. Last year alone, we spent $1.2 million in staffing. We currently have $950,000 budgeted. I would advocate that we put another $275,000 in the budget for next year, just based off of the trend and based off of what we spent last year. If we take a snapshot in time as of now, we are probably about 80% through the staffing service budget. We are not 80% through the school year. I can't say it enough, but if we could just get people to show up and not have to pay so much in staffing services, that would be great. Education assistance, I am advocating that we increase that line item by about $70,000. Education assistance is for all of our collective bargaining units to get some type of tuition assistance. Just a couple things to point out. We're seeing our teachers use this line more than they ever used to, but it also is giving us a secondary impact on the teachers' wages. So if a teacher currently is sitting at a bachelor's level and they're getting 30 extra credits, they are now moving to a wage or a new grade level, which does have a financial impact. We are advocating to go ahead and add 4 new ELL teachers. I noticed on the slide prior it said 6, so I'll adjust that slide. It is 4 new ELL teachers. We are currently in negotiations for NASP and our clerical union. That is going to be an increase next year, and their wages. As we heard from the IT department, one of the biggest increases for IT is the core switch and the core network infrastructure. You're going to see $253,000 increase there. Plant operations, around a $200,000 increase in totality when we look at plant operations. We did just sign a new electricity agreement, and that did have a pretty substantial increase. We shared that at the last Finance and Ops meeting. The 2 next bullet points, as we have talked, contract services related to special education. I would highly recommend, based off of the cost and what we have seen this year and over the last 3 to 5 years, that we go ahead and add an additional $1.8 million to contract services. That would bring us up in our operating budget to $3.5 million. In special revenue related to special education, I would suggest we put another $1 million there, bumping us up to $1.5 million, giving us a total of $5 million related to contract services for special education. The next increase is tuition out of district. Year over year, we have seen this continue to rise. As I've shared over the last year and a half or so, this is another area that we don't have a lot of control over. If we have students move in or students that we are placing out of district, this can be pretty costly and can be a line item that unfortunately is extremely challenging to expect or to even build a budget around. Last year, we spent alone just over $7.3 million in this line item. I would advocate we put an additional $1 million in the operating budget, bumping this line up to $7.2 million. I would also advocate that we add additional money into special revenue, increasing the out-of-district special revenue line item to $1 million for next year. Before I move to the next slide, any questions?
Ms. Raymond?
Is the out-of-district costs driven by having more students with increased needs that we can't service in-house, or is it driven by the service providers increasing in their fees to provide the service?
I think
Yeah, it's a yes and yes.
Yep.
I
Oh,
think
okay,
we're seeing
both.
more intensive services required by some of our students, and we're also seeing tuition rates going up. And so it's both. And I mean, it's just a high cost. We have some students that are a minimum of 60,000 students, and we have other students that have 400,000.
Yeah, as you know, I wrote a bill this year to have the state reimburse 80% of actual costs, which failed. But I learned from the State Department of Education that the New Hampshire spent $1 billion last year on special ed, but only 1/10 of that came from the state, and the rest of it came from us and the feds. So, yeah.
Mr. Gray, I just wanted to ask, you wanted to take that, it looks like you want to take $2.5 million out of the special revenue for special education, and it's currently $3 million. So is that going to be, is the $3 million what it's going to be? Or is it going to be more than that because we're only like halfway through the year?
Yep, good question. So based off of the tuition that we are pulling into that special revenue account, I'm seeing about $1.3 million coming in this year. We will, by increasing special revenue for next year, we will go ahead and take down some of that fund balance that is currently sitting at $3 million. But we have to go ahead and hit special revenue some. Otherwise, I'm going to suggest that we put, a majority of this in the operating budget, and you're not going to like that percentage if we do that. So we need to use all of these funding sources for sure in order to be able to support these costs. So with us increasing special revenue, we're anticipating not decreasing that fund balance to zero. It would be a mix of the $1.3 million that we're seeing being brought in year over year, plus reducing some of that fund balance slightly.
We've been talking about open enrollment. If we have open enrollment and we have a lot of special education kids come to our city and we don't get any extra money to pay for them, what's going to happen to our school district?
Dr. Andre, do you want me to take that?
You really want to take that?
Because we have a great special education in our school, and smaller school districts can't build these kind of programs because they don't have the money, they don't have the budget that we do. So if all of a sudden the state says, oh, open enrollment, everyone can go wherever they want, everyone's going to come here, and they're not going to pay us any of the extra money, and we'll end up, what, bankrupt?
So related to open enrollment, my understanding is how the law is currently written is if a student is in a neighboring district, that school district has to pay us 80% of that per pupil cost. It is, of course, not going to be a net neutral, right? Just based off of the overall cost that we know we incur year over year. So we have to plan for some of this, but I think depending on what happens with open enrollment, we potentially could be having a conversation that we had a lot more expenses that were unanticipated, and where are we basically paying for it? And that would be my reasoning for us to not go ahead and exhaust what we have in special revenue and or that trust fund, because those two accounts do give us a little bit of, I don't want to say a buffer, but a little bit of that uncertainty that we can't anticipate quite yet at this time.
Okay, all right, Ms. Raymond.
So what happens with Science Learning and Brentwood Academy, which are Nashua unique programs that nobody else has, that other districts have contracted rates of tuition that they pay us? Like, would open enrollment mean that instead of paying us the, whatever, $50,000 a year for Science of Learning, that they would only have to pay 18?
My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr.
Those are
Andre,
made-up
is
numbers. They're not
that
the
is-
perfect numbers.
Yeah, my understanding is if they're coming into those specific specialized programs, that is the cost of that specialized program. That is not the cost for them to send their student here to the Nashua School District.
Okay.
Ms. Bishop?
I think that was my question too, was if an out-of-district family wants to come here for a specialized education program, are they paying the tuition rate that we would be charging, or is their district paying the 80%? But I think that's what you just answered.
Yeah, and then the other thing, is we have to remember we're, at the hearing earlier, we're limiting right now to 25 students.
Right.
Right, so that's what we're trying to control, some of those costs. I think if Concord controls it, you might see a different kind of conversation. But I think it is the other aspect that we have to remember is, what's the cost of a special education student, which is a little different, but also what's in the student's IEP, right? Because, is it, I think there might be some mutual IEP kind of conversations, and what's a team decision on who can meet those, the needs of that student. So I think special education is still a little murky right now, but I think we need that kind of clarification. But when we have our open enrollment policy that we're trying to pass right now, it's 25 students at the high school level that we would be accepting, and it's 25 students leaving. So if a student from Londonderry wanted to come into our elementary Science of Learning program, it would still be a tuition-based.
Okay.
We want them here. We do a great job, right? But we do a great job because we have the capacity for it. So.
And again, a lot is still happening in Concord, and we can get some more information on this, but there are some unique pieces of the bill as it stands now, where it is an application process, and you can really specify, like, you're taking students for specific programs. So I think, it's not necessarily people can come into any of the programs that we offer. It's for specific programs that we open to the public, first of all. And then I know there was also some lack of clarity around who owns the cost of special education. And I think it depends which lawyer you ask, but a good amount of them believe that the sending district would continue to own the costs of special education. So I think some of that will be resolved by litigation that happens. But for now, I think that's a question that was still up in the air. But it's not just open, it's open within parameters that are set.
Mr. Shelby?
Yeah. I don't know, I'm a little bit confused, maybe I'm new. So number of student enrollments are going down as per my knowledge, right? from last year to this year. And if we see the cost is going up. So it's very difficult for me to understand that why the cost is going up in every possible way. And when our sale is our number of students getting enrolled with us, are we expecting the student enrollments will go up after investing into this kind of increases?
So let me answer that, and then Dr. Andre, feel free to jump in if you want. I think one of the important messages that we shared last year during the budget presentation, and I would say it is the same this year and as we move forward, is we as a district, yes, are seeing a decrease in enrollment, but we are seeing a drastic increase related to our overall student enrollment related to classification. So as we're aware, special education, it costs quite a bit. At times, there are ELL costs, and we are seeing, even though our enrollment has decreased, our costs have continued to increase because of the services we are required to go ahead and provide.
So both the number of students receiving those services and the cost for the services themselves have gone up, even though it's a larger percentage of the number of kids. Well, it's a larger number of kids, right?
Yeah, so earlier this evening, we saw the change in our special education population that's requiring more services, both in district and out of district. And then we saw the changes in our ELL population. So the biggest decrease we see is in our regular ed population. That is shrinking, and then over the last couple of years, we've eliminated a number of middle school and elementary teachers, and they were mostly regular ed teachers. We've increased the number of para-educators, we've increased our ELL teachers, and we increased our special education teachers, and that it has limited the offset of the decrease. But in this slide, you can see where it's, people still make up like 85% of our budget, right? And so that's the aspect of what's the right number of people. And then, again, benefits going up 12%, our utilities, our transportation, this is where you see the major changes. And it's hard to actually eliminate transportation, out-of-district tuitions, and we'll get into it tomorrow, but we'll still see recommendations that it'll be impacting more regular ed students than special education or ELL students. But this is, again, if we roll everything up over the last couple hours, this is the change next year, and this would be the request we could be asking, is a 9.8% increase over last year's budget. And then if you, without benefits, it's an 8.8% increase. And if you recall, the mayor asked us to come in with a 3% increase.
Just to clarify, so this 8.8% increase is just to keep the services that our students are currently getting. Like, that's just our cost of living increase for next year.
Yeah, it's our contractual obligations, transportation, everything that was on the previous slide, the 4 new ELL teachers, the investment with.
So it's adding 4 teachers and keeping everything else same.
Mr. Gray, can you go back one slide?
Yep.
This is also included in next year.
But like all of that contract and out of district, we have to do that anyways because we're legally obligated.
But that would be our bucket 1, right? Our priority. So we need to invest in these areas, right? So that's included in the 8.8.
So to Dr. Andre's point, if we go ahead and roll the budget over based off of the contracts that are currently in place, we add in these major increases related to special ed contract services, out of district, some of the plant ops, the transportation, et cetera. That is where we go ahead and arrive at, if you remove benefits, because sometimes we talk without benefits is really what the board's going to vote on. You're looking at an 8.8% increase, which is a $12 million increase.
It's very difficult to sell this budget, to be honest, okay? Because 8.8% increase, and we don't have the number of enrollments going up for the school. And we are asking more money. And that is not going to really, will be accepted by the people. That is what I feel like, because I know that the money is something we cannot bring it from anywhere. We have to figure it out.
And
We don't disagree, right? So this is why we need to have tonight and tomorrow night some conversations on what are we actually recommending. I'm not recommending an 8.8, so we'll go through the next couple of slides, and then tomorrow we'll get into where do we see some right sizing that we can present to the board of, that will go to a hearing and then to be voted upon. But we are not this is if we just roll it over, if we just add what we think.
Step one, you're talking about.
So, and then we'll kind of go through the next couple of slides, and then tomorrow we'll start unpacking on where we think some of those changes might be, and then that's a conversation with the Board of Education on what do we think we can afford? And, right, like, this doesn't include playgrounds.
Okay. Thank you.
all right, I'm going to move us forward unless there's a couple more questions.
Did you have a question, Ms. Bishop?
No, I just wanted to remind us that most of this stuff on here is our legal federal requirements that we have to provide for students, that we have we can't skimp on them because we legally have to provide them for the students, even if enrollment is going down, which we've been all pulling our hair out for a couple of years about this. But I just wanted to remind you guys.
All right, the next slide is just some historical information where we were last year and the last couple of years based off of the recommendations and what went forward to the board. So we'll talk about this again more tomorrow. This next slide can get pretty convoluted, but this is our intergovernmental revenue. This is the revenue that we receive year over year from the state. I'd like to pull your attention to a couple kind of midway down through the chart is state adequacy aid and special ed or special education aid, catastrophic aid. So again, back when I did a presentation in September, I did show we are actually seeing some type of increase, still probably not where it needs to be, but we are seeing an increase in the governmental revenue that is coming in. If we look at state aid or, special ed aid or catastrophic aid, we have seen that increase year over year. For next year's budget, all the way over to the right-hand side, I'm estimating about $1 million that will come in. Although so far this year, we've already, I think they increased that some, so we received 1.4 million, so that's slightly up for current year. Related to state adequacy aid, so a couple things to point out. The estimate for next year, for 2027, I'm seeing as of a snapshot in time, and I have a follow-up call tomorrow with the state to go over our state adequacy aid numbers. If you look at the $65.5 million that we are estimating to receive, that is an increase of the estimate from prior year. But if you look at the revised 2026 column, kind of your fourth column over, it actually is a decrease from the 66.9 million that we received. I would love to huge asterisks next to that because we have been doing a lot of data cleanup on the back end related to ELL, special education, our food service, and our applications. I think the data is slightly off. I don't want to promise anything. I rather under-promise and over-deliver. But related to state adequacy aid, I think the 65.5 is a little light compared to where we've been year over year. So the way adequacy aid works is they give us an estimate, usually in November. They give us a new estimate, of course, after the budget season is done, usually in the April or May timeframe. And then once our numbers are finalized, they'll give us a revision at the end of this school year for what next year's adequacy aid will be. So I only share all that because I'm hopeful state adequacy aid will increase, but we're not going to see a $5 million increase. It might be something similar to what we saw last year, if it is an increase.
And can you just
Dr. Andre?
clarify that the state aid goes to the city?
Yep.
Right? And so if you can just talk
Yeah.
about that process.
Yeah, so, sorry, I dropped my water cup. I just want to make sure it didn't spill. Sorry about that. So all of this, yes, does go to the city. When we talk about revenue in total, all of the revenue that is listed on this page here goes directly to the city. I think it's a fine balance because, again, as we're seeing, there's roughly $67.6 million of revenue we are estimating will go to the city next year. The way I always think about it, though, is if we're bringing in, call it 67.7 million, but our budget really is 160 million, the city is helping through, taxes and stuff, offset our budget by about 100 million. It's important to know that if we get more intergovernmental revenue, it all goes to the city. If we get less, again, it all goes to the city. So I just think it's a fine balance of, yes, the money all goes to the city, but I think, the city is supporting us too. I think as most other school districts have voiced their concern, the state adequacy aid number still is nowhere near the cost per pupil that we're seeing. And hopefully with that Conval case going through, which Nashua was part of, I'm hopeful we'll start to see that increase, but there is no timeline right now. The state has not given us any understanding, will that take effect in 27, 28, 29, et cetera. So at some point, we'll see it, but there's no timeline.
Go ahead, Ms. Raymond.
Thank you. Yeah, that's not going to happen. It's $30 million difference, but it's not going to happen this year at the State House. My question is about the state adequacy aid, though. I saw on WMUR yesterday that Manchester in this year's budget from the state is expecting at least a $10 million cut from the state portion, and then whatever the city decides to do. Is Nashua impacted by that change as well, or is that just a Manchester-only reduction from the state?
Yeah, my understanding is it's Manchester based off of the estimate that we received in November. And as I mentioned, I have a call with the state tomorrow to talk about Nashua's adequacy aid specifically and to make sure our data matches the estimate, at least right now, snapshot in time, so we can budget appropriately.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, any other questions on intergovernmental revenue? I'm going to hop over.
I was just going to say the next, I just want to be cognizant of time. So the next few slides are really informational. So I think we can kind of go through them a little faster.
Yep.
And then leave some questions to the end because they're not, again, I think they're more informational that we can kind of review of where other revenue sources are coming in. I think the food service slide is a conversation that we'll be having.
Yes.
A concern coming up.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Andre. So this next slide, special revenue, we have several special revenue accounts. This is the revenue that we're seeing come in for next year and estimates for FY27, as well as the expenses. And then food service, if I can just draw your attention real quick to food service related to the special revenue account. Food service has always been what we consider a self-sustaining account. As I'm sure we're all aware, when you go to the grocery store, I know my grocery bill seems to be significantly higher. cost of food is increasing pretty drastically. We as a district used to have a decent amount sitting in our fund balance in food service. Back in 2025, the beginning fund balance was 1.3 million. And you can see we ended 25 at $373,000. So we spent almost $1 million of that fund balance. So I wanted to make sure this was brought up during the budget because I am maybe concerned that food service potentially is going to have a change in the sense of this account truly is supposed to be self-sustaining. If we continue to see the increased cost year over year, there are only a few things that we can do to make sure we don't end up in I'm going to say deficit related to food service. If this account does not cover, if revenue and expenses don't equal each other year over year and there's some type of negative at the end of the year, our operating budget does have to support that. So either we need to increase food prices again, or we need to reduce staff, or we need to put some type of expense in our operating budget for food service. So I'm not suggesting any of those at this moment, but I am making folks aware that the balance in food service is starting to go down, and it is something we should be paying attention to. All right, the next slide, and I promise this is the last one for everybody. The next slide is just questions. I just wanted to give a super high level update. I believe there was a question of how much money do we receive in federal grants every single year. Just a snapshot of what we've received this year for 25-26. And what was received in 24-25. So again, several different funding streams that we receive here in Nashua, $12.8 million in totality for federal grants this year. All right, I know that was information overload. We'll regroup tomorrow evening and share some proposals on what our suggestions and recommendations are.
I just want to say thank you for everyone that came and sat in the audience for so long. I know you guys had a super long day, and we really appreciate that you were here to hear all of this. It's important that you know where we stand as a district. And thank you for the presentation. It was great. You guys did awesome. Thanks.
Would you like to make a motion to adjourn, or?
Crap, yes.
Hold on, do we want to talk for like maybe 2 more minutes?
Do we?
Why?
I just have an internal clock.
All right, so my brain is mush, so I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'm giving it
All
to
those in
Kirsten.
favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 9:35.